Thank you. Hi, good evening. Council of the City of San Juan Bautista special meeting Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. It is now 6:01. We apologize. We have been experiencing technical difficulty and we did not have closed session. So we are going right into our regularly scheduled meeting. Councilmember Friels, will you please start us on the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Friels,
Yes. Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Here.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Here.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Here.
Mayor Jordan.
Here. Thank you. We will be taking public comments. Public comments are limited to items on this special meeting agenda pursuant to California Government Code Section 549543B. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker and will be taken when that item comes up. Our first item is the consent agenda. Oh, no, I'm sorry. First item is a public hearing. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Hold on, this caught me off guard as well.
We know.
This is our annual public hearing. We have 3 special districts in our city serving 3 different neighborhoods, and this one is serving the Creek Bridge neighborhood. It's known as the Valley Vista Lighting and Landscape District. And it's formed under a different set of rules than the 2 community facility districts, Common and Rancho Vista and Copperleaf neighborhoods. So this one has a little different procedure requiring the hearing now.
Please mute yourself on Zoom.
Let's Kim Kelly.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And last year, for none of the special districts received an increase. We were allowed to increase them by cost of living. And as a result, in this instance, we have a maximum that we could assess, which applies the cost of living since 2003. And then we have the costs that we need to cover the assessment district itself and the and leave some in the reserves in case we have a major issue. This one covers just the landscaping and street trees and lights, where the CFDs cover more. They cover the lift station and other things. We met, we put together our budgets using Harrison Associates as our engineer, and agreed that the math worked out that we would need approximately a 10% increase. And that's if we had increased it last year, it would have been 5%. And if we had increased it this year, the cost of living was 4.04%. So roughly 9.4%. But when we looked at the amount in the reserves, it was insufficient. So we're recommending a 10% increase of $60.30, taking it from $603.26 up to $663.56. And as noted in the resolutions, if we had been applying the cost of living over the last 20 years now, it could be as high as $1,600. So I think we're doing a fairly good job is keeping our prices in check and not asking the property owners to pay more than they need to sustain the district. We did have a community meeting in the neighborhood, in the library. About 3 members came by Zoom and about 15 members came into the library. And we discussed various options that we have for this district. And the main focus, the main theme was how to reduce the cost of landscaping. And I think that's a pretty good way to look at this. It's the most expensive line item in their budget. It's about a $20,000 budget. Some of the creative ways were drought tolerant. How do we replace grass with drought tolerant topping surfaces? And then how do we could we just maintain the gazebo area and the ponds and have the homeowners take care of their own properties? And that would come out in a lower bid. So I did agree to take this landscaping out to bid, but I wanted to combine it with the other two districts. So we'll take all three out at once. I have prepared a draft and directed the city engineer to supervise that bid. So that bid will be underway soon. It just needs to finalize a few things in the bid document. Having said that, I think the overall atmosphere in the meeting was one of sounded to me like anyway, and people can correct me if I'm wrong if they'd like to speak on this item. The community wanted to talk amongst itself, and so I recommended that they send out a survey about the quality of landscaping and the quantity of landscaping, so that way they could get all 33 homeowners to respond instead of the 15 that were represented at our group meeting. And then that they could participate in the bid process. They have a draft of the RFP right now, and they can look at the proposals when they come in, and then they can be hands-on as they want as far as the process goes. So with that, we're estimating we're requesting a 10% increase, an annual assessment of $663.56, which will leave approximately a $10,000 balance in their reserves. And with that, Mayor, happy to answer questions and open the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments, concerns from council? Sorry, Councilmember Friels.
No questions.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
I don't have any particular qualms about the Creek Bridge or Vista landscaping district. But since the contractor is the same for all three districts, I have heard a number of complaints and things about the Rancho Vista one. A lot of plants were dying, etc., mainly because the irrigation system was either it was a drip system, it was either plugged up or not functioning properly. So and I don't know how we judge that with the other two that don't seem to have that problem, but the Rancho Vista is considerably bigger. So if we go out to bid, I'm just hoping that we get a landscaper that's attentive to those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Nothing.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
I second Mayor Pro Tem Freeman's concerns about the irrigation on all three. And I just wanted to make sure I know that the residents in Valle Vista were unhappy with the increase, unhappy with the landscaping. Are they aware that although you are incorporating all of their feedback, that the increase is still happening? Has that been socialized?
Yeah, I just noticed that this week, and it's one of the residents saying that why don't we just
I didn't either. Thank you. I think at the end of it, everybody finally agreed to it. Those who were there. I have no further questions or comments on it. I'd like to now open up public hearing. If there are any members on Zoom who would like to speak to this.
Mayor, we have one hand raised. James Pisano, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, welcome.
Good evening. This is Jim and Ida Pisano, live on 1 Awani Street. Just as an FYI, your sound keeps coming in and out, so we're not hearing everything. So we didn't hear what Dawn said at the end, but from what we heard, I just want to make sure that part of the discussion that we had as a community, the 15 people that were present, along with the people that are on Zoom, is that we are reviewing our CCNRs to also ensure that what the homeowners are responsible for with regards to landscaping their properties is mentioned, and that we are going to review that. And that prior to passing the budget for the landscaping for Valle Vista, is that the RFPs are to be sent out to those that are local landscapers here, so that we have people that are invested in San Juan Bautista, because we do have quite a few landscapers or companies in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment on Zoom?
No other hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do we have public comment in chambers on this matter? Thank you very much. I'm closing public comment. Bringing it back to the council. Do we have any further comments from the council? Yes, Councilmember Sabathia.
Sorry, didn't mean to touch the gavel. It sounded like Ida was under the impression that before this is approved, the RFPs or the group of people RFPs were sent through to needed to change.
So I have not solicited bids yet.
Okay.
Because it was just last 10 days ago that I met with the Copperleaf community. In fact, you were there.
Okay,
And I've been preparing the budget, so I have not put those in the mail yet. It's generally a 60-day process, and then especially if we review them with the community, could be, I expressed in an email to Ida that it could be as till September before we award.
okay. So this needs to be approved prior to that selection process.
Yes, it has to go to the assessor's office for the property tax rolls.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to accept the Valle Vista Landscape and Lighting Maintenance Assessment District number 1?
So moved.
Thank you very much. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Freeman, seconded by Councilmember Sabathia. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Part 2 of that is to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista certifying compliance with state law and with respect to levying of general special tax assessments and property related to fees and charges. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This was pretty routine for this district. It includes the engineer's report that is required annually be prepared, and that report is attached. And with that, I have nothing to add to the resolution.
Questions from council, Councilmember Friels?
No questions. Thank you.
Can you please turn your microphone on and say that one more time? Oh, sorry, couldn't hear you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
I have no questions either.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
No questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
I got nothing.
Thank you. I just have one. On the assessment report. It lists Don Reynolds as the city manager, Robert Rathie from Wellington Law as the city attorney, and Don Reynolds as the acting deputy city clerk. Should that not be Elizabeth Soto, deputy city clerk?
It should be. We only need one deputy city clerk.
Thank you. If we can make those changes. Okay, I'm now opening it up to public comment. Do we have any public comment on this matter from Zoom?
No hands raised, Mayor, at this time.
Thank you very much. Public comment in chambers,
None at all.
closing public comment, bringing it back to the council. Any questions, comments, and concerns from the council? Having heard none, I'd like a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Councilmember Sabathia, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Consent agenda. All matters listed under the San Juan Bautista City Council agenda may be enacted by one motion unless a member of the city council or the public requests a discussion on a separate, for a separate vote. Would any member of the public on Zoom like to pull an item?
No hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you. Would any member of the public in chambers like to pull an item on the consent agenda? Thank you. Council members wishing to pull an agenda item. Councilmember Friels, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. Councilmember Morris Lopez,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Sabathia.
No, thank you.
Thank you. I have none. May I have a motion to accept all matters on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilmember Friel, seconded by Councilmember Sabathia. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Informal items and reports. Reports from city council representatives to regional organizations and committees. Councilmember Friels.
Due to a scheduling conflict, I missed intergovernmental, and COG is on Thursday, so we're a week early. And I'll give you a report on that next month, and folks aren't going to be very happy with what I have to say about it. So it's a big money issue, so.
Thank you for the forewarning. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Like Scott just said, we're a week ahead of time, so AMBAG meets tomorrow night. However, I was able to help draft the agenda, so I know what we're going to be talking about. We'll be finalizing REAP 2.0 planning grants for all the jurisdictions, including San Juan Bautista. So we will be receiving a planning grant to help us plan for needed houses. AMBAG will also be going over a new public engagement plan. A lot of people don't know what AMBAG does or who they are or what. So we're going to try and get more public engagement. And then also the Integrated Waste Management Commission, which only meets quarterly, meets Thursday at 10. I also helped with the agenda, so we will be going over Recology's latest efforts to keep a step ahead of state compliance regulations, particularly SB 1383, which is on organics and composting and things like that. We'll also be going over the budget for that committee. 3CE meets next Wednesday, and that agenda, I have no idea, so we'll just keep on going. And on June 2nd, I believe it was a Friday afternoon or Friday morning, actually, I went into a Monterey Bay, economic, MBEP broadband coalition at UCSMB. Most of the conversation was on the middle mile part of the fiber optic network for or any place, but basically the Tri-County area. There I met with Rochelle Chong, who is in charge of Golden State Net, which is an organization contracted by the state of California to supervise middle mile build out for the entire state of California. She has recently gotten in contact with our city manager, and she is very interested in putting in hopefully fiber in our sewer line trench, which we will be talking about in a few minutes. So that was an important thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
I'm also pending my first time attendance with the San Benito Water District, the first Thursday of the month, which will be in July. And I'm also alternate on the COG committee with Councilmember Scott Friels, which is tomorrow at 4. Even though I will not vote Thursday at 4, excuse me, I will not be voting. I will probably go and be in attendance to just witness and observe the business of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
I, as alternate, attended my first LAFCO meeting. That was very informative, and had a bunch of discussions with several of the members after the meeting. There was a lot to do about hiring some counsel for LAFCO and hiring a contractor that could. There was an acronym that I'm terrible with those.
She's with PCA, Policy Consulting Associates, to work on MSRs.
That one, MSRs, multi-service reviews. I can't just say the things out. I can't remember all these acronyms. But there, that seemed like a big step. Multiple of the people sitting on that council were happy to get that work done. There's lots of pending MSRs that haven't been some done in the county for several years. So I was excited to see all that working. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much. Intergovernmental Board of Supervisors have an ad hoc committee on Hazel Hawkins Hospital. It consists of Supervisor Kosmicki and Supervisor Curro. They were in conversation with Salinas Valley Memorial Hospital as a possible partner to Hazel Hawkins. Hazel Hawkins is working on their own thing, and because of NDAs, they can't discuss a whole lot, but will not be working with the county or Salinas Valley Memorial Hospital. They respectfully declined. They have filed for Chapter 9, and we do hear about it every now and again at the San Benito County Business Council meetings. So we'll keep you posted on that. Water Resources Association of San Benito County. They applied for and received $150,000 grant for urban community drought relief. And they're looking at schools for potential turf removal projects. Continuation of LAFCO. We interviewed 2 law firms to provide legal services. We had county counsel and have since moved away from them for thank you for that. Conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest. So we interviewed 2 law firms, Best and Krieger, and Colantino, Highsmith and Watley. We did choose one, but we're working on the agreement now, and it's pending conditions. We did consider an agreement with PCA on helping with our executive officer, who is an interim executive officer from Monterey County LAFCO. We have Monterey County LAFCO working with us until September, and hopefully we find an executive officer between now and then. But PCA will be working on our MSRs and annexations. They're starting to trickle in from the city of Hollister. And the seniors program, the Mary Velasco Sullen Seniors Program, put on a bocce ball event at Franklin Circle. The next meeting will be to discuss seniors outing at a movie. No date yet. City council announcements. This is an opportunity for council and staff to share the community calendar and announce upcoming dates of interest to the general public. Councilmember Friels.
Yep, I have an announcement and then the kudos. John Thomas Jensen Jr., a longtime resident of the San Juan Canyon. JT was married to Shirley Jensen, who owned Mission City Coiffures, which was a little salon in San Juan years ago, and they were, like I said, longtime members of San Juan Canyon. John, or JT, as you know, passed away in May. I've known him, gosh, since I was a baby, and there will be a celebration of his life this Saturday, June 17th. At 11 a.m. at Mission Farms RV Park at the barn. If anybody'd like to attend JT celebration, you're welcome.
11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Thank you.
And on a better note, because my wife and I are dear friends with one of the members of this team, I want to congratulate the Hollister High School varsity softball team for becoming probably the greatest sports team in Hollister High School history this last month. And they ended up being ranked number 1 in the state of California and number 5 in the nation. Our dear friend Kyla Hignall scored the winning run on a stolen third base.
Nice.
So yeah, it was an amazing, and not only that, she got a standing ovation when she went into Payne's that night. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So I just want to congratulate that. I am a Baylor, so I'm proud.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
It's hard to top that, but I'll just congratulate the Baylor softball team that they did better than great, better than fantastic. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
Nothing to report, but I'll jump on the bandwagon. Girls fast pitch softball is an amazing sport, and it's great to have a local team ranking so well.
Yeah. Go Baylors. Rotary's first annual Rainbow Run, June 17th, this Saturday. City of Hollister Pride Celebration, June 25th. And on June 30th, the inauguration of the 71st Speaker of the California State Assembly, the Honorable Robert Rivas. Looking forward to going to that. Treasurer's report. Wendy? No, sorry, Michelle. Is Michelle on? Okay, Wendy, you're up. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Let's see, you have in your pack this evening the financial report as at April 30th, representing 10 months of the city's fiscal year. Presently, the general fund revenues are at 85% for the year to date. We are at 83% for the fiscal year, but we're running at 85% on our revenues. Correspondingly, general fund expenditures are at 64% for the year to date. Net effect is a positive change in the general fund balance for the year of $785,000. A big jump from the prior reporting period is we did get some VLF swap funds in, as well as a big installment of our property taxes. Semi-annual installment was received. Water enterprise funds, the revenues for water enterprise are at 85% for the year to date, so in line with budget. And the expenses are at 78% for the year. The net effect is a positive change in the water enterprise fund of $401,000. Enterprise funds for the sewer. Excuse me, are running at 106%, so quite a bit above budget for the year to date. And expenses are at 83%, so in line with budget. The net effect is a positive change. The sewer enterprise funds of $486,000.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns, Councilmember Friels?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
No question. Thank you for the great report.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
No, no comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Sabathia.
No questions or comments.
Thank you. I see that we're a wee bit behind. Are we behind or is Kismet behind in billing? There's a $30,000 check. Sorry, forgot to ask Michelle these questions earlier.
Yes, they're averaging below $10,000 a month, so that must have been back 3 months back. That's all I can imagine. There hasn't been any special assignments.
Okay, yeah, the date on that is January. And nothing since then. So I'm just a little concerned at their billing schedules to be so far behind. And then we have it's not listed on this one, it was on the last one, Coke property rental and Orta fencing. Do we have an idea of how much longer we'll be paying for those?
We've got it on the auction page right now. I was talking with both our fleet maintenance operator, Paul Champion, and with Carl Bajarki today. Carl has been trying to find a metal surplus to take it, and he reported that the big one in San Jose doesn't find it cost effective to come and pick it up. So we're doing our best to find a way to sell that, either to an interested buyer for the pellet plant sake or even through scrap metal. So we have been stepping it up. I think you brought it up a couple of weeks ago, Mayor, and we are stepping it up.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I don't have a solution yet, but
Okay.
it's on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, public comment.
No speaker cards received, and anybody in Zoom wish to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Mayor.
Thank you. City managers report.
Yes, on the question, June 2nd, involved in 2 meetings today, discuss the fires and then that's it as always. So we're looking at value engineering, postpone ways to fairly put the project together without breaking the bank. And so I believe we're close. We're less than $500,000 away from balancing what we spent. So it is a very big capital improvement project, and I think $500,000 come to you in forward to main contract to award July 18th. Right now, I've got Stantec and contractor. So I think overall it's a little bit interactive by the contract. Some of the days where the price comes. We have 2 agreements offered that are set for approval. 20th of June.
I'm sorry, can you please speak into your microphone? Nobody is hearing you on Zoom.
Oh, I should try turning it on. There you
There
go.
we go. Sorry, thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Freeman and Mayor Jordan.
Yes, Councilmember Freeman and Mayor Jordan have agreed to attend the Hollister City Council meeting. This is our water committee and support that. I have no reason to believe it's not going to move forward, but this is our permanent 40-year agreement for Hollister to accept our water and an easement agreement on their facility, both approved by the council in May. We will have to move forward buying environmental mitigation credits July 18th as well. That's to mitigate the impact that we will have when we alter the creek bed and cause it to be dry most of the year, impacting the sensitive habitat of those animals by creating a dry creek. And as you may recall, we discussed this in November, way back in November, because we thought we had to do it before we went out to bid. And the cost estimate is about $468,000, which is part of balancing the budget that I discussed above. We're completing the financial plan now. The bids have come in, and we'll have a full report for you on July 18th when we do the award. Okay. All right, the water district and import of service water status. For most people know by now that Steve Wittry is the new general manager. And I met with him for about 90 minutes on May 16th and made some great progress. He had a couple variables that we didn't anticipate. First and foremost is the route that the pipe would take. He's on board with the goal to complete the import of fresh surface water by the summer of 2025, and he agreed to pursue the simplest path forward. So I hope to bring back to the council, maybe as early as July, a recap of what this project has become, because it is now focusing on using the old Highway 156 after relinquishment. And it'll require some of the chlorination at well 6. So that's a change in design. And the MOU needs to be updated to reflect these changes. We're confirming the cost assumptions from 2021. And we're also considering owning the pipe from the West Hills treatment plant. Missed a word in that sentence. The benefits of us owning the pipe and not the district is that we would be able to finance it through grants and loans as we did our sewer project, which would bring down the cost tremendously. We've got about 30% of the cost of the sewer is being paid for by grants. So it's when you have an asset to leverage against grants and loans, it's much easier to get them funded. We'll have an easement to prevent any outside hookups. That's a requirement. City will provide the operations and maintenance of the pipe, which should be minimal. And we're negotiating 2 easements crossing the 156, and those will be separate agreements. They're going to put what they call casings under the existing 156, while Tykert is out there doing the construction. So Tykert will actually do this before the new road is done. So we're trying to fit the timing together for those. So those casings are critical to bringing the water on that path towards the city. So I wanted to give a more detailed description of how this project's moving forward. And we hope to have a pipeline agreement and a purchase of water agreement too later in the summer. And Bob worked on those, so you have to stick around. And the regional water master plan was completed by the district. And the city is more than welcome to invite them, Wallace Group, to present it. Talks about water and water resources over the next 50 years in the region. Now that we're going to be buying water from the district, it's critical that we be part of this, and we have been, so we could bring back a summary for you. The special districts, we just heard a report on Valley Vista. And we talked about an RFP for landscaping for all 3 districts. We met with Rancho Vista neighborhood May 18th, and we proposed a 3.3% increase from 768 to 793.86. That would be on the council's agenda on July 18th. We talked mostly about truck traffic, animal control, flooding and repairs, and emergency preparedness. Those are the hot buttons out there. If I counted them right, several of you were at that meeting. You can help me out. We met with the Valley Vista Creek Bridge, and we talked about that already, so I won't review that. We met with the Copperleaf neighborhood May 31st, and they were proposing a 5% increase from $487 to $514, about $27 per household. The flooding was a concern. The Caltrans 156 project, of course, was a concern, and the plans for the industrial properties across the street from them. 415 San Juan Hollister Road is a property where the city declared a state of nuisance. Most recently in May, the city council approved an agreement for the sequel work out there. We have met with the realtor several times with prospective buyers. And we're actively negotiating what a temporary use and limitations with the owner will be. We continue to work with them quite a lot recently in particular. And so I just wanted to give the council information that this is still on our radar and still work that we're conducting on 451 San Juan Hollister Road. The Urban Growth Boundary Sphere of Influence Committee has met twice. We've reviewed definitions, roles of the committee, and the status of the mapping work that went on last fall. That matter is also on the agenda tonight. Charlie Bedoya, Chief Bedoya and I attended a fireworks Cal Cities workshop on the 23rd of May. There were over 300 different agencies represented in that meeting. And the focus was adopting an ordinance for property owner liability, where the host of the fireworks being lit are held liable. So the homeowner or the property owner would be held liable, or the host could even be the tenant. So this is some of the cutting edge language in fireworks ordinances. Almost all cities allowed safe and sane fireworks. Those that banned all fireworks saw them come back into their city despite being illegal. So that wasn't successful for a lot of cities. There's high rates of intoxicated constituents on the 4th of July, and almost all of them engaged law enforcement. The firefighters and unarmed folks were not attempting to enforce this without law enforcement. And we are ready to place banners in the community now. We have cameras and special duty officers signed up for the weekend before. The 4th of July is on Tuesday this year. I did meet with a constituent for about 90 minutes about fireworks and this history. So I'm happy to meet with anyone in the community who wants to know more about the status of our fireworks and our policies. So right now, safe and sane fireworks can be sold by the Anzar High School boosters. They cannot, no fireworks can be ignited until noon, between noon and 10 p.m. on the 4th of July. So we found that to be a successful strategy last year, and we're ready to do that again. We worked on our strategic plan in April, and then again in June 2nd and 3rd, incorporated and update survey results into the budget. And I have a few slides on that later. 7 of the 158 responses were in Spanish, not very many. The surveys included comments, so we've posted those on the city website so people could see what their neighbors were thinking. We expect a draft report in July, and then a 5-year strategic plan to be completed in August or September. If you remember these words from the workshops, respectful, respond, helpful, and friendly. Those were our service branding. We've completed 2 budget workshops in the past few weeks, and we're rolling out our summer programs. And that's it. Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Councilmember Friels?
I had a question about the freshwater pipeline. I suppose there'll be an extra, will probably be charged for the casings that they're gonna.
Yes, we'll be charged for the casings as part of the project, but the right of way has already been acquired from Caltrans, so there's some trade-offs there.
Okay, and I understand the reason to run to call it our pipeline. That'll be they're calling it what on a service road, but a frontage road. So
Frontage road, yeah.
so it'll be a county-owned road. So we'll have full access to our pipeline with the county. Do we have to do any type of agreement with them on that?
No, what we were able to arrange with the county for use of the roads for the wastewater treatment was just evidence that it was right of way and not easement on top of private property. So demonstrating that, I think the city attorney was happy with that.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Yeah, we got a letter from Stephen Loop, the Director of Public Works in the county, to that effect. That nothing was required from us as far as the wastewater pipeline.
Okay. And then if we do that, if we do own that pipe, there are people along there are residents along there. Would they have an opportunity to?
It's my understanding that the Water District Board gave pretty strict direction to the general manager not to allow people to tap into this pipe. And we've engineered the pipe for the city's growth, not to take in new customers. So that would demise the engineering of it. It would be stressed, but the whole idea is to not have people outside the city use the pipe.
Okay, and I was kind of thinking more along the lines of, well, that, and it would be nice to see some type of, for fire protection out there. If we can have hydrants along that system.
I don't think that was the intention of the easement restriction, so maybe that's something we could consider.
Just curious because, and then, so we'll be responsible for it. For some weird reason, we get a pipe break 4 miles from here. We have to take care of it.
That's ours, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman?
Yes, thank you. I have a question on the industrial people across from Copperleaf and Mission RV Park. Is there any, I know that 3CE through one of their associate organizations is pushing a solar farm. Is there any way, and I think that would be great because solar farms do not require very much traffic. No one needs to be out there to watch them. They do their thing by themselves. It would, the traffic would be non-existent. And it would be much as the floodplain also, so you can't build houses and big commercial buildings out there. So I think it'd be a beneficial use of that land to provide, but we're going to need about 30% more power by the year 2035 for the electrification of California. And every little bit helps. So I was wondering if there's anything we can do to influence that landowner to sell to 3CE so they can establish that power plant out there.
So we're doing as much as we can. The realtor and the prospective buyer have met.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the report, city manager. I just had a couple of comments or questions. I attended the Copperleaf outdoor park meeting. It was pretty gusty out there and everybody stuck around. I think they had some concerns about the sound wall because when they first bought their homes, and I think this is not our responsibility, they weren't aware that they were going to have a 4-lane freeway, right? They were concerned about that easement coming closer to the wall and then now 2 extra lanes of traffic. I think that was one of their concerns. And then I was sitting out there kind of noticing that on that whole division, it seems like it's a lot taller than down slope from the RV park. And I did pay attention to one of the homeowners saying that during the flooding, it couldn't have been their area or their properties that flooded into the RV park because that creek was not overflowing. I just wondered if you had any comment on that, because it definitely looks like it's been raised up higher than the RV park. And we know the RV park was flooded out. It could have been a combination of that and also Caltrans, and then also, I don't know what else, I guess coming down from the canyon. And the property you're speaking of, I guess, is Midnight Express when you're talking about the industrial property for sale. So I know there's been some alteration of that creek as well. Can you speak to that and what's going to happen with their sound wall? And we're not obligated to that, correct?
Correct. We're not obligated to, well, we didn't design the sound wall. We're not building it and it's not on our property. Therefore, but they are residents. They are residents. And so I asked the city engineer to follow up and try and get a detailed set of plans. So I recall it was going from like 130 feet to the wall only being like 40 feet away, 41 feet. Yeah. But the height does help them as far as sound goes, and it mostly helps them in terms of flooding. They were required to bring in a lot of fill to place those homes almost 10 feet above the sidewalk when you walk out on Selman Holster Road. And so, but did water from their neighborhood flood into the trailer park? It did, but it's not by design. It did so because, I think in part because of Caltrans construction back there. Their flood retention pond filled and then flowed out just as it's supposed to towards Highway 156 and then heads south towards Hollister, but then was able to come back through the trees. So during the construction, that channel between Mission Farms and where it crosses under the highway was compromised, and the water wasn't flowing the way it was supposed to, causing it to flow back into the park. But they were also getting a lot of water, as you said, from the other creek. The water was not able to fit under the small bridge that they have going on to 451 San Juan Hollister Road, and it was instead sheeting over the property. So Mission Farms RV Park was hit on all three sides by running water that day. So it was not any single fault. It was a collection of faults.
Well, and they also were concerned about the road out there. And I have to say, the part of the road that's in our city boundary, it's really, really bad, super bad. I mean, there's potholes. They were concerned about the road on, I guess, the old San Juan Hollister Highway. Are we looking at that in the near future?
In a couple of ways, it is a target in our pavement management plan, of which we just started to address this past year. So it may be on the next schedule. I'm not sure yet. There is a report later in the agenda regarding which streets are priority streets, especially for the state funding. But I think I'm more optimistic that FEMA will be able to help us with that. It's on both of our damage claims for the New Year's flooding and as well as the March flooding. And the way the FEMA inspectors were pointing out flaws with the road, I feel pretty optimistic that we might get some help rebuilding it from FEMA.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia?
Yes, I just had one question about the special duty officers. Who would those people be?
We've always relied on private security, working with Rich Brown and code enforcement.
And those would be additional hours beyond their normal hours?
Yeah, we generally have as much as twice as much coverage on 4th of July.
Would it be better to have more deputy coverage instead of less, or sort of more private security coverage?
In the past, we found it next to impossible. I think our dedicated deputy has been promised to be here, but I don't know if we can get two because there's widespread issues all around the county. So they're stretched pretty thin on 4th of July.
Thank you. They actually just got funded for 4 more deputies today. Yeah. Back with fireworks, or continuing with fireworks. Did we in our fee schedule or liability, did we put something in our ordinance about property owners being liable? I thought we did.
Yeah, we do.
We did. Okay,
We
cool.
do. They were just talking about the state of the art language.
Okay, okay.
And the resolution 2022-39 is I'm happy to provide a copy to the council. It also has the bail schedule.
And then environmental mitigation credits. We just have that one still. We don't have any other.
No,
Offers for property.
I had inquiries from 3 other land conservation banks, and none of them have matured to the point of acceptance. And I have U.S. Fish and Wildlife approving this bank, so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Could I shed a little light on the sound wall? Because I was on the
Sure.
planning commission. So
Yeah, go ahead.
That was something, oh, do you want me to wait?
No, no, no,
Okay.
no, no.
That was something I brought up. 156 is roughly about 200 feet above sea level. So I read the topo maps on the original plans. They did build 9 feet. And then the sound walls are an additional 10 feet. So roughly that's 19 feet above the original 156. That was my biggest concern with the view shed. Is that driving on 156, you could see Fremont's Peak and then it disappeared because there was a great big wall. And I just thought it was odd that it was such a tall wall. But then to come to find out afterwards, they put 2 stories above the wall. So that didn't make much sense to me. Unfortunately, those folks probably, their realtors probably should have disclosed that that freeway was going to be expanded, because we've been talking about that freeway for almost 20 years now. And I feel for them if whoever sold them those homes didn't give them that information. But that sound wall, just so you know, it's roughly 19 feet above grade. So it's pretty significant wall. No, then you couldn't see the gablins at all. So that's just shine a little light on that.
Thank you. Are sound walls COG or Caltrans?
Caltrans.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Chief Martin Del Campo, fire update.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Bob Martin Del Campo, Fire Chief. Nothing significant to report. I've got a couple of administrative items that I want to pass on. The RFP for the feasibility study closed today at 5 o'clock. Myself and the Chris Mangano, the OES director from the county, are going to review them. And you should get a report out on the next fire advisory committee. Also, we have a number of items going to budget waiting for approval. One of them is a training officer at the rank of captain who's going to do, of course, departmental fire, California State Fire Marshal's standard training. And they're going to be tasked also with providing CPR to the community. And they're going to be coordinating efforts with the fire explorers and providing training for our youth. That's one of the items that are going up for approval with the budget. Our aerial apparatus is a CIP. It took us about 9 months to get the specifications together for the fire truck. It's going to be an articulating rear end on it, so it can maneuver through some significantly tight areas. And that should be about a 18 to 24 month construction. Also, we should be receiving delivery of a water tender and a type 3 within the next, I believe, 5 to 6 months. I'm uncertain about that because of the supply chain and the restrictions that we're all having to suffer from it. That concludes my report, and available for questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from Zoom?
No hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you. Questions from chambers?
No speaker cards received.
Thank you. Council members, Councilmember Friels, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman, Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes, thank you for the report, Fire Chief Del Campo. Just wondering if you're current with the weed abatement, since we're right on the heels of 4th of July and the same fireworks.
Yes, ma'am. Because it was an extremely wet winter, you're going to notice that we're going to be knocking down a lot of the nuisance areas and having to go back and chase after it again, because it did take its toll. The good thing about it, though, is that because some of the stock growing out there and it's still wet, the fuel index is extremely low because of the fact that there's a lot of moisture. And that was one of the updates that I got from the adjacent chiefs when we had our operation meeting. So yes, and there's a little bit of relief knowing that it's not going to be light and flashy. It's going to be thick and dense. But once that dries out, it's going to be a tear for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
No comments.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't have any comments either, Chief. Thank you very much. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Do we have a Sheriff's Department update?
No, I didn't get one. I haven't heard from the sergeant. I think he's on vacation, so my apologies.
Thank you. Discussion items. Discuss the acceptance of an award of a $50,000 grant for youth mentoring from the National Park and Recreation Association, NRP.
And NRPA, yeah,
I backed away.
the National Recreation.
NRPA.
Right,
Thank
on April 18th, City Council and members of the public, I received an email from a community member sharing on behalf that they had submitted a grant application on behalf of the city. It was referred to as an out-of-school youth mentoring grant for $50,000. The cost spread over 3 years, about $15,000 to $16,000 a year, not $150,000 as we first realized that. I informed the city council of this news, stating it was looking into it, but realized that the administrative systems were not in place for our city. The application relies on a lot of volunteers and even at times one-on-one mentoring with minors and youth. So the background checks and the supervision and after following up with the city attorney and our risk management team felt that the city could be quite at risk, being the size of the staff that it has. Its recreation programs just aren't up to speed yet to take this on. Nonetheless, it was pointed out that we could consider subcontracting for some of these services. So I did talk to the school district to learn that they have a big program with the Youth Alliance that's starting soon, or may have already started, goes through mid-July. They've had over 90 students enrolled in it, which is really great. So their summer program is robust. And I was unaware of that until I reached out to them. I also reached out to the Central Coast YMCA, and they're not currently providing services to San Benito County, but they serve Santa Cruz County and Monterey County. And so the YMCA is excited and anxious to start a program in San Benito County. And they offered the program, and I provided the 2 flyers in the back of the staff report about youth governance, youth government model legislature and court, and youth and government model United Nations program. The superintendent did describe a model United Nations program at Anzar High School, and it's possible that the two could work together. And on the one flyer, you can see that it costs about $1,000 per delegate. They have great field trips, and it's just a great learning experience. So I was able to get on the phone with the representatives from the National Recreation Park Association, and my first concern was their June 15th deadline. They wanted a memorandum of understanding signed by June 15th, and with these kinds of variables still up in the air, I wasn't sure that it'd be prudent for us, but they understood, and we weren't the first city to ask them for an extension. So they're willing to give us an extension to the end of July so that we can work to find partners so we can transfer some of this risk where they already have programs in place and staff trained to administer this kind of services to minors and to youth. So that's where I'm at. I wanted to provide the council with some background and with all the details on the grant, and the grant application is in your packet. And at this point, I'm still having conversations. I have since today spoken with the Youth Alliance as well as the YMCA. So we have 2 partners. The school district, because they already have a robust program, isn't interested in serving, but they'll help provide students for the program. So that's my report.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom?
Seeing no hands raised, Mayor,
Thank you. Chambers?
didn't receive any speaker cards.
Thank you very much. To the council, Councilmember Frails.
Yes, I have concern and some questions. To start with, I'm concerned that somebody had applied for a grant for the city of San Juan Bautista without our knowledge. It's lengthy. And I'm not sure that's the way we should be doing business. We should know about these things prior to, because that gives our legal a chance to peruse through them. It gives our staff a chance to peruse through and make sure that we can actually manage the account. Yeah. subcontracting will probably, you know, it'll probably be eaten up by subcontracting. And I am concerned about one-on-one mentoring because there's a whole bunch of background investigation that has to go behind that, and that's not cheap either. So just from the get-go, this $50,000 would be burned up right from the beginning. And just the fact that we don't have volunteers rounded up and we don't have a program. And this item is taking time. This is taking time from our meeting on something we weren't even prepared for. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I understand the issue of a little bit of overreach, but I would really rather have that and have some programs for the children than underreach and no programs, which is what we've traditionally had in San Juan. I do feel that the YMCA is a nonprofit organization and they'll do a great job. They're fully staffed and maintained. They have a large office in Salinas, California. They serve 3 counties, 2 of them pretty well. That would be Santa Cruz and Monterey. 1 of them not very well. That would be San Benito. And this is a way to change that, to get them involved. And I would think that some of those fingerprinting costs and background checks they are completely up to speed with that. They do that on a regular basis. Their volunteers or their paid employees have gone through all those hoops and can provide those services probably at a fairly low cost or no cost at all, because they are charged with developing programs in San Benito County. And I'm repeating, there is very few, if any, programs in San Benito County, and this is a chance for it to get started. This is also an excellent chance for our potential recreation leader to literally have a program that's halfway in place, and he or she can get it the rest of the way in place. It allows that person to literally hit the ground running, and he or she doesn't have to, on the first day of work, scratch their head and go, well, what do I do? There's already probably a fairly lengthy to-do list for him or her. And so that would be really, really good, in my opinion, to get that person off and running on the right foot. We in San Juan, and I've noticed it a long time, and people who know me know that, you know, I set up a basketball hoop outside of my house before it was popular, before the city manager tried to take them all down, and gave lessons to Diego and Carlos and AB and Aaron and all my friends who are, well, they're taller than me now. Okay, so most of them. But you know, I believe in providing something for the kids and the children, and in the long run, it pays off because it gives our children, and we have a lot more children now. Copperleaf has a lot of children, so does Rancho Vista. It gives them something to do. It gives them a reason to stay in town instead of going out to an expensive whatever in Gilroy or Morgan Hill or Santa Cruz. And it will help develop our downtown, develop business downtown. Recreation is like that. And so, you know, I understand the feelings of maybe we just did it a little too fast, but it's better to play catch up than have nothing at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Thank you. I have to say that I wholeheartedly agree with Councilmember Friel's. The fact that this was applied for and awarded without the knowledge of the city, and just looking at the volumes of paperwork, you know, but I really want to focus on that because this committee that applied, or an individual within the committee, the title to me doesn't translate into action. It's EdCAC, Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee. So advisory for me is the key term. Okay, that means that if they're thinking about maybe looking for grants or looking for programs, that would mean that there would be some discussion and advisement or recommendations to the city council. And to go out without our knowledge and apply for this grant. And I sat at that meeting as an audience member just to kind of figure out who they were and what they're doing. And I have to say that they were misinformed or misunderstood that I heard $150,000. And I think they thought it was for 3 years and it was times 50 grand. So that was 150. So that was incorrect. And I also have to say that I agree with Councilman Friel's. 50 grand is going to be burned up on contracts with outside agencies to even get it up and running. And the program, I think, is not recreational. If I'm reading it correctly, and I'm just reading it, perused it before and now kind of looking at it more detail. It's from the Department of Justice and it's called a mentoring program. So for me, that doesn't translate into throwing hoops or, funds and recs. It's just for high-risk children. I mean, I don't think we have enough information even about what this grant is for. When I hear mentoring and Department of Justice as a co-grantee, I think of high-risk children, one-on-one, adults having fingerprints, background checks. You're working with high-risk children, so I don't translate this into any ways of summer fun. So there's a lot that we need to know about it. I think we can go after other more appropriate grants, but I'm going to go back to the basic principle. This was applied for without our knowledge, and it's going to take a lot of time. We're talking about it now. We need to talk about the basics of how it was sought after, and without any kind of consideration or consultation that this would be a right fit for us. Like I said, one-on-one mentoring translates to me high-risk population, which is great, but I don't think that's what we had in mind for a summer rec program. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
I know there's a lot of feelings going back and forth about this. So can I just ask questions, Don? So if somebody applies for a grant for the city, until the city decides to accept, it's kind of no harm, no foul.
Right, the city has not accepted it, and the city has informed and is in dialogue with the grantee, and they understand exactly where we're at, and they're being patient. They give us an extension to make up our mind.
Okay, yeah, so my feeling about that, the overreach one is, we're not in contract with anything. It's kind of a no harm, no foul, and it's an opportunity for free money should we choose. I do have concerns about the YMCA government program. I agree with Council Member Morris Lopez that if it's going to be Parks and Rec, it should be Parks and Rec, and I'm more interested in us finding partners that can help us with some summer programs or after school programs. In that regard, that would be, to me, more appetizing. So if we could lean towards finding partners with that, and could the YMCA do that instead of this program that they're?
No, the Youth Alliance may be able to. They only offered the 2 programs that we attached to the agenda. That's what they have in the can to take off the shelf and for us to use.
Okay, and then with respect to us subcontracting people to take care of this, do we have to pay them for that, or is these funds go directly to children?
No, in fact, these funds can be used to help pay for a recreation technician, and they can also help pay for supplies and materials that we already have in our budget. So does the money?
Let's do that.
Yeah, well, that's an option in this grant. Can pay for up to 30% of the position.
Yeah, if we can figure out how to make it help, with budget line items that we've already and things we're already doing, and make the decision and defer the work until that Parks and Recs person comes online. That partnering with an outside agency seems like a shared Council Member Friel's concern. I don't really have an appetite for writing more checks to contractors. That's all.
Thank you. Well,
If I may respond, please. As I understand it, the YMCA would not ask for money. Okay,
Oh, yeah, no, it's $1,000 a student. It says so on the flyer.
thank you.
for a field trip, yeah, but not not for just a class or whatever.
Thursdays, 6 to 8 PM.
Okay, well, I might be
I'm
wrong.
not sure how long it lasts, but each of the
I
five.
thought the $1,000 was for the field trip to like Washington DC or Sacramento or someplace like that.
No, it's more like a semester-long program, I believe.
Okay,
And
so that's the program that the Y has, not the grant itself.
correct. So the question was, does the grant parameters work for this program? And could we put the two together? And it sounds like they have a framework with 7 different principles, and a program like this would hit on enough of them that they wouldn't have any heartburn over it.
Okay.
So they sounded like a lot more flexible than some HUD people or some FEMA people or other things.
I'm sorry, I forgot that you hadn't done yet.
Thank you. Well, I am super excited about having a grant for kids, as I expressed at the EDCAC meeting. I am hugely concerned that I'm also thrilled about the partners that we're actually forming right now with YMCA and getting them into our city. And actually talking to the Youth Alliance, who is from in Hollister and for the county, where we rarely get acknowledged as the third jurisdiction of this tripod with Hollister and San Benito County. Last week alone, 3 meetings, 3 separate people had to interrupt the speaker to acknowledge San Juan Bautista. So I'm thrilled that we're actually talking to other groups. A couple of other local youth mentoring groups, which it might or might not work with, would be Girls Inc. and Guitars Not Guns. There are several folks who are trying to bring Girls Inc. into San Juan Bautista. And we already have Guitars Not Guns, which is a national program, and bringing it in, it is here with Steve Harris. My biggest concern is that a grant from the Department of Justice was sought out. Well, it wasn't sought out. It was found, it was applied for, and there was no conversation with the city, no conversation with the council, except for a letter of support on city letterhead by Councilmember Freeman, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. There is nothing transparent about this, and should have definitely, in my opinion, come before the council. That's pretty serious when people go and ask for money without the city's knowledge, not knowing the bandwidth for working on this. Already it's taken hours away from other tasks that the city manager has been working on. So I'm very, very concerned. It's kind of disconcerting that this happened. Training has already been gone to by members of the EDCAC as city staff. So huge concerns.
I add one thing too with this, from somebody who's dealt with federal grants. This is a federal grant. Federal grants don't just appear in your checking account without any repercussions. I haven't had a chance to read if there's going to be any type of long-term how would you put it? Checks and balances. Are we gonna have to show on our books, from our books, what we bought, what we purchased, you know, down the road? Like I said, I've been involved with federal grants before. We're 2 years down the road. I'm doing a whole audit inventory of the equipment that we bought. Are we going to have to do that? Who's going to do that? I mean, our Parks and Rec person is going to be part-time. So that's just a concern when you start getting into federal grants. Thank you.
I do have one more comment. At the end of the grant, it says these parties have caused this MOU to be signed by their duly authorized representatives. Signed by the city of San Juan Bautista. Did the city of San Juan Bautista sign for it?
No, that's the whole point. The guidelines request that the MOU be executed by the city by June 15th. So I had originally thought if we're gonna take a stab at this, that we'd put it on for approval tonight. But after we got the extension to the end of July to sign that MOU, it gave a chance to explore these other options and bring the MOU back for approval or denial July 18.
Okay. Any further questions, comments, concerns from council?
Yes.
Yes,
First.
okay. Thank you. Yes, just to answer, council member, Friel's concerns. In this packet on page 9, Councilman Friel's, there's effect of failure to address audit issues. There's going to be a lot of auditing. It says the recipient understands and agrees that the DOJ, that's the Department of Justice, awarding agency, may withhold award funds or may oppose other related requirements if, and then in parentheses, as determined by the DOJ awarding agency. So, you know, we're not really going to be clear what exactly if they decide they want to do something. So there is going to be auditing.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Thank you. I would fully expect there to be auditing. I'd fully expect us to keep track of our purchases and what we do. One of the issues we're having with several organizations in town is we really have no idea what they're doing.
Which is what just happened, yeah.
Yeah, and guess what? The mayor is a part of the committee. She should know. So it's amazing that she's complaining, and yet she's a huge member of the committee. So it's really hard to figure that one out for me. And there's several other committees that are similar. The San Juan Committee and the new name that the San Juan Downtown Business Association. We're kind of in the dark as to what they're doing, and some of them we give money to, and some of them we don't. And we need, in my opinion, to do a little better job of asking them for follow-up on what exactly they're doing for the city. And some of them are receiving money, and some aren't. The EDAC is a subcommittee of, or not a subcommittee, but a standing committee of the city, and so. While they don't have a per se line item budget, they can recommend that money be spent. You know, these people we should be mad at is California Consulting. Let's face it, we have volunteers who are doing a better job finding grants than those people are, and they're the professionals. And so all your ire is at the wrong people, in my opinion. They're going out and trying to help this community find money for our youth, and now we're throwing darts out. Come on. These are volunteers. None of these people out there are getting paid. They don't get a dime, and we're throwing darts at them. That just
and neither do a single one of us up here.
That's
We're
right.
not throwing darts, John.
Okay.
What we're saying is, and you went after the mayor on this one. You obviously knew about it, but didn't inform the rest. You wrote did you not write a letter representing the city of San Juan Bautista on that?
I wrote a letter representing myself, but I did use my name as Mayor Pro Tem. Yes.
On city letterhead?
Yes. Okay.
That was out of line.
Okay, I don't think so.
I just want to weigh in as well. I think we need to keep it respectful. Pro Tem Mayor, Freeman, outing the mayor like that, I'm going to out you. Your wife's on that committee, the EdCAC. So I think we need to be civil here. And the bottom line is that, yes, I agree. There's a lot of subcommittees. I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to find out how many committees we have, because those should be coming through city council. We should be aware. We should be aware of what they're doing. Are they standing committees? Are they ad hoc committees? And I feel that, yeah, I agree on that part with you, but I agree with Councilman Friels. You overreached by using our city letterhead and kind of being not transparent and endorsing that. And like I said, your wife is also in that committee. Okay, so we can look at it that way as well.
Thank you all. I appreciate the support. I am on the EDCAC. I'm on a different committee, and the first I heard about it was after the grant was received. Just for clarification and transparency.
You know, we only meet once a month, and these grants come up and they have hard end dates, and people applied. And yes, I put in that letter, and I don't feel guilty or bad about that at all. Okay. Like I would much rather overreach than do nothing. Okay. Do nothing leads to juvenile delinquency, firecrackers going off all night long on July 4th, 5th, 6th, December 7th, whatever date you want to pick. Yeah, thank you. Exactly. So, that's my way of doing this. And I thought I did communicate it to the city. I thought maybe I mentioned it during a conversation with Don, or maybe I didn't. The EDAC committee has communications with the assistant city manager on a regular basis. There are several communication breakdowns here, several. So it wasn't just me not saying it, because I'm fairly talkative. I don't hide stuff. I'm not sneaky, and I'm not anti-transparent. And that really offends me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm thrilled that we're looking out for our kids. I just think we overstepped a titch on this one. Any further comments from council? Nope, thank you. Discussion item B. No, this is a discussion item only. It will come back before the council before time is up. Well, there is no direction here. This is a discussion item only, without any action to be taken by the council. So yeah, go ahead.
I would suggest that investigate further to see if it can be done without any financial hardship to the city and without excessive time constraints on the city. See if we can work it. Okay. First thing we probably need to do is hire the recreation coordinator. And then if we can get the grant, it would help pay for his or her salary. And life would be a little bit better that way for us. That's just a very personal opinion. But first we need to see if we can work it the way I just said. If we have time to do, if there's no financial hardship to the city. I was not doing this for financial hardship. I was doing this to ease to make our finances $50,000 better.
Your mic is off. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I appreciate that. I was doing this to make our life $50,000 easier, not harder. So, and I know that there is some time constraints. And I personally don't care if it's the Youth Alliance or the YMCA. If we can find a nonprofit group to to build our recreation program and make it work better, with this money, that's money well spent, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to before we go any further, and John's starting to make it sound like, we're hating children or something. I feel, yeah, we should have some type of youth program here, but it's not the youth program that I'm concerned about. The simple fact that the 5 of us sitting up here were elected by the city of San Juan Bautista, resident city of San Juan Bautista, to oversee this stuff. But it was a sucker punch, just in my opinion. But so now we're spending 25-30 minutes on this, and then that is time. Time is money. So then who's going to do the research? That's time. Bob does it. He's going to bill for that. That's time. We were not prepared for this. Has nothing to do with me not wanting to have anything to do with children or helping kids out or trying to save money. Has nothing to do with that. I just think it wasn't a titch of an oversight. I think it was an end around. And take all the differences with our consulting firms and all that out. It has nothing to do with them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Final comment?
I agree 150% with Councilman Friel's.
But further concern would be one group writes a grant on behalf of the city without city's knowledge. Who writes the next grant? With writing a grant application and not being able to use it, if we didn't have the bandwidth, if we couldn't actually use this, then we potentially lose future grants. And to mess with the federal government is, I'm not fond of that. So are we bringing it back? Are we seeing if we have bandwidth, or are we letting this drop and say, thank you very much for your efforts. We appreciate it. Next time, let's do a little advanced planning.
I'm in favor of not continuing this and doing advanced planning.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
I will second what Councilman Friel said.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
So I'm going to disagree. I think we should investigate a little further. I didn't say we had to accept the grant. We should investigate further and see if we can work it into our programs. And if we can't, we can't. If we can, it'll be a lot better. It's just throwing away free money, and I don't think that the fingerprinting and the background checks is going to take $50,000 when we have partners who we can work with who already have that done. Okay. One of the things that was brought up a month ago or two, when Mary Shaw Carone came with her proposal for an educational camp, is she had my neighbor across the street, Connie Bishop, who was a credentialed teacher who already has gone through all that stuff. She's a retired credentialed teacher. And we have credentialed teachers here in this room right now who have gone through all that stuff. And so we are not lacking for people who don't have the background checks already completed and things like that. That's kind of to me, that's a red herring also. Thank you. And I am in favor of at least pursuing it and seeing if we can work it in with whatever. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. I don't know. Thank you.
Well, I don't even have to weigh in. We have a 2-to-1 vote to not pursue this. If I said yes, it would be a tie to pursue it. So I'm going to go with I am so sorry. I'm thrilled that people are excited about having this grant. But if we can find monies somewhere else to help our youth, I am all for that. Thank you all very much for this. Moving on, discuss first annual report of the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee, EDCAC, EDCAC, a standing committee of the City Council for the business improvement, resiliency, and overall community economic development. It is Assistant City Manager. Are you bringing this little explanation forward first?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce that. I don't know exactly who on the committee is here. I see Fran is here. Liz Sanchez Turner is here. Mrs. B is here. Stephanie Correa is also here. And I believe Teresa Lavanino is standing right in front of you. So very good. So I have a PowerPoint that Teresa developed for us that I'll be happy to put up on the screen when she's ready. But just sort of as an introduction, this EDCAC began sort of conceptualized in September 2021. And then as a brand new committee, took some time to sort of get its organizational legs under it and put a structure together, adopted bylaws, a mission statement, vision statement, regarding what the committee was all about and what they wanted to see for San Juan Bautista as a result of their work. Basically the structure of this committee evolved into 3 subcommittees, which we'll describe in a minute. I have to say here, you have, first you have a staff report, you have the actual report of the EDCAC. However, you don't have the full report of the Community Relations and Resources Subcommittee. For some reason that did not make it into the packet. You also have, and I think that's important for the City Council to have that, pardon me, to have that information before you accept the report. So it's good that this is here for discussion, not for action. The other thing is that this report has a set of staff recommendations at the very end. And the EDCAC explicitly requested that I not include those staff recommendations in their final report. So when this report comes back to City Council for final consideration for acceptance, I will take those recommendations off. There, at the end of the staff report, however, there are 4 recommendations that I will leave in because I think that they're directive with respect to how the EDCAC operates, or City Council intends for them to operate in the future. And I just have to say that yes, we do have a couple of subcommittees that took their mission to heart and really wanted to see something accomplished in their first year, not to just set the stage and to create a vehicle and a foundation for further work, but to actually get something to happen. And so for good or not, and mostly for good, I think all of these subcommittees did an extraordinary job. So I have to say that this committee, as a standing committee, really represents the best of what a citizens committee can accomplish if everyone is working together in a concerted way and collaboratively. Some of the best meetings I've ever attended as a staff person have been with this committee, and it's because everybody really is on the same page and wants to see something happen for San Juan Bautista. And so with that, I would just simply like to yield to Teresa. Thank you. And then I will put up the PowerPoint presentation whenever you say you're ready.
Okay.
Thank you, Teresa. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm vice chair of the committee and usually in the background. But today I'm up front and want to give just basically just a like a cliff notes, what's gone on from the beginning until now. If you really want to get some real good information, and you as a council have probably read the staff report, but I thought maybe the community and the people that may be watching here may want to know a little bit about our group and who we are and how we came together. So hit it.
And if you can please speak a little or pull the microphone closer to
Okay.
you. There you go. Thank you.
So basically you can go ahead with that first two on the PowerPoint. We're working here.
Please sit by.
Maybe we don't need the
Brian, do you have
PowerPoint.
the PowerPoint?
Oh, it's not up. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm looking at it, but I didn't share it. I'm sorry. Let me do that again. And
I was going to make this 2 minutes, but
I'm so sorry. Yeah, just a second. I did have it and now I don't. So let me go get it. All right. Here we go. Can everyone
Okay.
see that?
I made the first one colorful. Let's go to the second one.
Thank you, Liz.
Basically, what I wanted to do was an overview. And like I said, sort of the cliff notes, introduction. What we did is I'm going to give you the introduction to the committee members and the advisors, the mission and vision statement. We did do a recommendation to the city council to extend parklets in San Juan Bautista. We did form subcommittee groups. We did have monthly committee reports and updates with our advisors. And we also recommended San Juan Bautista projects for the San Benito County Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which is the SIDS. This right here, I'm just showing you, we started with 11 members. And you can see the different members and their affiliation. That was December 2021. And we've had our first meeting 2022 in January. But we started with 11 members, and now I wanted to just give you an update as far as who we are now. Is now 9 members. And I wanted to highlight that we do have advisors from San Benito County Economic Development and GoBiz. We have 2 advisors, and they've been helping us throughout this whole process. And the good thing is like I said, in your packet, you'll get all the information about what's going on. And Brian's been very thorough about his information. But I wanted, we've gone through a lot of changes from the beginning to now. And so what's coming up next is our reports from each one of our groups. I did want to highlight our mission statement and also our vision statement. And those are also in your packet. And I'm not going to read that because you don't need to hear all that stuff. So for the public's information, that's what I was doing. I'd like to go to the Economic Development Outreach Group. This group here is the current subcommittee members is Fran Fritz Harris, Liz Sanchez Turner, and Leslie Jordan. Darlene Boyd was on that committee also, and I think she has some information to put in on that committee. But what I want to do is just mention what Liz had given me, and she said basically right now they're working on a database to support information for the businesses. I don't know if Leslie has anything to include on that. Did you want to put any information in, Darlene, on that? Keep it 2 minutes or less.
Hello. Yes, I worked with the outreach committee until January of this year. What I could say is that I personally have done continue to do some outreach because it is essential kind of to other things that I am doing with the other committee. We have established some connections with MBEP and Uplift California. I tend to look a lot more regionally because I want to see how San Juan Bautista fits in with what's going on statewide as well as countywide. So I have kept up with a lot of the county and the state agencies and organizations. I do know that one of the ones on my radar is particularly MBEP, Uplift and Reach, that are working to look at the whole 6 counties on the Central Coast as a tech hub because of Vandenberg Air Force Base, but also because that's what the governor wants. And so we have to figure out how we're going to fit into that when we're looking at especially businesses that we want to bring to our city, because I do believe that we have not had an industrial or commercial foundation since the cement plants left, and it is time to replace that. So I do know that we do have some choices out there. The city of Vacaville chose not to have Google come into their community. Instead, they chose to have medical technology come into their city. So I'm just looking at that as an example of the fact that we have choices of who we would like to have come into this city for stuff. Also, I was looking at an Elena Prus who has a book called Recast Your City. She also is a consultant, and it has to do with manufacturing. And I do know that we're doing a historical survey of a lot of the empty buildings around town. So some of these buildings we can look at as, developing into commercial spaces where that maybe there could be micro manufacturing, those kinds of things. So I am looking at this as ways to bring more prosperity to us, to replace that commercial and industrial background that we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go to the business development and retention, and that's Helena Watson will be giving a report on that.
Hi, Helena Walton, Business Development and Retention Subcommittee. And our role and responsibility for this committee was to take a hard look and develop recommendations for establishing and enhancing business development and retention tools and practices in the city. The focus was on the experience and perspective of new and existing businesses, interactions with the city, county, state, and economic development entities to achieve cut myself off. Sorry. In your report, you'll see several line items. I won't belabor the time with them because I'm sure you'll go through that report. But basically, and they only gave me 2 minutes. Basically, sorry. Let me go back to my report. The Business Development and Retention Summit Committee believes that implementing these recommendations to the city can establish a more supportive and attractive environment for businesses. This will not only benefit businesses, but also the local economy and community as a whole. So please take the time to review. If you have questions, Brian is our liaison with the city. So you can submit those and we can work on answering any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Hang on one second. Sorry, Brian, if you will please stop scrolling.
Yes, of
Thank
course.
Okay, now we'll go to the community relations and resources. And the reason I have those items up there is so that the community knows what the tasks each one of these sub committees have in front of them.
That's perfect. Brian, if you can throw that slide up, that would be great. It's just the scrolling through everything is.
Okay, and
My bad.
Darlene Boyd will be doing the report.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Hello, thank you again. Community relations and resources has been very, very busy. We have 3 task forces that we're forming. We have administrative development, who's going to identify reporting structures, work with the city to develop systems. This is going to be on our program registration website, Facebook, Instagram stuff. Develops San Juan Bautista Community Recreation Report. I know that Kim Callum wants to particularly be involved in helping to hire the assistant recreation person that we're considering. We also have a funding strategies task force, and that's to help look for funding for things, to partner with different people. I do know that the Central Coast YMCA that I talked to from meeting them at the Business Council luncheons is very, very eager to come here. They have been here in San Juan Bautista before, working at the San Juan School. This was a few years ago. They really want to come back. They offered to send a couple of programs that we can maybe start this summer. They do like to partner with us and have maybe the city pay for certain things, but then they are basically funded through the YMCA. So they sound like a good partner to work with. We're going to identify potential corporate sponsorships opportunity. We're going to connect with the schools to help develop school leadership opportunities. We want to look at building facility inventory and identify the gaps. And we are looking at joint use facility agreements, hoping that the community center will come online and be usable soon. Then we also have a programming task force. So we're going to look at identifying the things that we can do now, which might include the YMCA because they really want to be here. Transitioning existing programs under Parks and Recreation umbrella. We do want to have a teen council, bring that back. It used to be called the Youth Commission, but there's a particular reason for just looking at teens at this point. We want to develop a process for new recreation and identify available spaces by next fall as to where we can do things. Volunteer guidelines for recruitment strategies and background checks. And we do want to meet with students, okay? And so, yes, we do recommend a part-time recreation position facilitation, and I know that the city is looking into that right now. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. We are a hardworking group and hope that you appreciate the reports today.
Thank you very much. I can attest to the hard work that the group has been doing. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom?
No hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you. Comments from chambers?
No speaker cards received, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Friels.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I had an inkling on what you all did, but I didn't know it was this in depth. And wow, I'm impressed. It's deep. I had one question. It's come up a couple times. Go Biz. What is that? Just for me and the rest of the town.
Yeah, GoBiz is a Governor's Office of Business Development. It is, if you go onto the Governor's Office of Business Development website, you can see the full range of services that they provide. They will step in to a local jurisdiction through their regional officers. We have two representatives from GoBiz attend every single EDCAC meeting. We have the regional GoBiz representative, and we have overall for the Central Coast, and we also have the GoBiz representative for business development attend both meetings. They not only attend the EDCAC meetings, they also attend the business forum meetings, almost every one of them. So there's a lot of sharing information. There's a lot of cross fertilization, and they have provided training seminars for the EDCAC during the past year, and those are available on the city's website as resources that we have downloaded and made available through the business forum, which is our extensive contact list of people interested in business development in San Juan Bautista since COVID. So, and then there's a lot going on with respect to the Governor's Office of Business Development that is sort of top down. You may have heard, in addition to the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, reference to the Comprehensive Economic Resiliency Fund. And that is a statewide effort to work at the regional level first. And our steering committees have just been established for the Central Coast. And I sent out information today on who those people are that represent this particular area. And the intent there is to develop a regional, a statewide, and then a regional, and then a local county strategy for economic development, and then to provide money for business development at the local level. And so the EDCAC was formed at just the right time to participate in the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy for the county, which is just being circulated for public review, I think starting on the 15th for a month, and then also to participate with the steering committee at the regional level through this SURF program. So the governor's office has been very active at the local level, and also to set the stage for money, real dollars coming into the community. So the programs that are being recommended by the EDCAC will find a home and funding through these programs. So this is new territory for San Juan Bautista. It's certainly new territory for staff, and I really have to say that the degree of integration that we have now with the Governor's Office of Business Development and the services that they can offer is just tremendous. It's a great resource for us, and they're not holding anything back. They provided, for example, their own program representatives to provide some training to the EDCAC on resources that they can access, businesses can access at any time. I encourage people to look at the Governor's Office of Business Development to see the full range of services that they will reach into San Juan Bautista and help our businesses. So it's things like that this committee is a the vehicle, and it's also sort of a stimulus for developing these programs that can really be helpful. That's kind of a long-winded summary. Sorry about that.
Yep.
But it's important.
No, it sounds important. And will the EDCAC, will they need funding for that? Is it a membership? So will they
No.
No?
No, there's no membership required to get Governor's Office of Business Development support. We do contribute to the San Benito County Economic Development Corporation. There are members of our EDCAC that participate in the county's Economic Development Advisory Committee. So there's a lot of economic development being thrown around these days for this reason. But the only outlay that we have is to make sure that our members have the kind of exposure to the economic development world that they need in order to be able to access programs for the benefit of the community. And we are sending 5 EDCAC members to CalEd, California Economic Development Association, this at the end of June to attend an annual conference. We are now members of both California Main Street, and we're also members of CalEd. I'm attending a training in October to help better staff the EDCAC and to help the city's economic development program become more robust. So there's a little bit of outlay this year, but for the most part, it's all volunteer, and great resources out there for us to take advantage of, including grants, direct grants and loans to businesses and to the city at the program level. So.
Okay, thank you. And I know that they'll need funding for those 2 organizations you mentioned, so that's important that we help with that. Darlene hit something on the head a little while ago, and it really kind of perked me up a little bit. And I can give this is local knowledge from years. You're right, Darlene, that there hasn't been per se any type of job market in this town since the cement plant went away. And I can tell you as a kid, and I'm sure Jackie remembers this, I remember the U-Haul vans, the moving vans all throughout town when they closed the cement plant. And it was just it just turned this town into a ghost town like overnight, because most of the, and I'll say most of the men that worked there had to move on and go to the men and women who worked there had to move on and go to either another job or follow Ideal Cement. So if we did have jobs, so then we get twofold. Our teens will actually have a job in town during the summer, which would be huge. So that helps. And then we actually have, like the micro manufacturing. It doesn't have to be tech. I mean, it could be making car parts to, I don't know, Tesla tires or Tesla wheels, yeah. So that, I mean, that then the youth or teens can start learning a trade. I mean, because it's right now we're desperate for trade members. So that's a great. Let me finish on the local. My dad pushed this when he was on the council in the 80s. He pushed this, and there was the south end of town was a great place to put in some type of small business type park or a small industrial type park. And his biggest concern was the kids that grew up here didn't have a job, they had to move away. And that was his biggest concern. And he was recalled for that. So now, 40 years later, we're finally getting to that point. Let's hope. And I hope I can help with that, because I'd love to call my dad and say, hey, guess what happened? You know, what you were pushing 40 some odd years ago has actually come to fruition.
Okay.
May
Yeah,
I speak to
Thank you
that?
very much.
Yep.
Can you please hold your comments while I get through the council? Okay, thank you.
Think that's all.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman?
I just want to say thank you for the great presentation and thank you for the great work that the entire committee is doing. We just need to encourage them and I think good things will grow out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez?
Yes, thank you. So it's a very voluminous report. I commend you for putting that report together, whoever did it. But I'm looking at it and still I'm coming away that, you know, for me as a council member, I'd like to really know how this committee got started, what the intent was, and I'm kind of getting more of a basic idea, but reading this and kind of hearing you all talk, there's a lot of overlap with other committees and groups in town. So I'm just wondering, you know, we've got a lot of people doing the same things. I did highlight some things in your report that I found a little interesting. It was on page 8, item number 5. You said the revitalization of Main Street is essential, whether we use retail strategies or piggyback on some option with downtown Main Street program. A lot of us don't really know what Main Street program is, other than it's a consulting firm that we paid a membership for. And I, you know, count me as being backwards, but I think that sometimes we overlook the local people that may know what we want and what is needed for our main street. I really like to tap into local talent more. And then it says whatever sources are chosen, the bottom line is that we need professional assistance. And I kind of disagree with that. You know, and Scott can attest to this. Our town was built on local people volunteering, like his father, my dad worked at the cement plant, you know, just a lot of local people coming together and pulling together as community. And I feel like there was an organization that is still existing in town with a lot of local people that are really doing that already. And that would be the San Juan, I believe. They used to be the San Juan Committee. You guys mentioned them here in item number 10, and I'll get to that. But outside consulting, you know, it's like I kind of sort of am hesitant to just throw our money with consultants all the time and outside people coming in with what they think their ideas are best for us. I think we have local talent and we need to reward that and support that. And so the city should invest in a staff person who's contracted specifically to work directly and closely with local businesses and groups to accelerate economic development. Well, maybe I'm mistaken here, but isn't that why we hired Mr. Brian Fouch? I understand that he is an economic development director. I'm just being transparent. I just want to know, because right there in that statement there, and this is coming from you all, I thought we had someone on staff already for that. Okay. And then number 6, we need to develop and maintain a social presence and marketing strategies with quantitative and qualitative rates and measurable outcomes. You know, that's all good and said in generic terms, but what measures? You need to be more specific for me. And then lastly, number 10, I'm looking at that. You talk about strategic for alliances around tourism. I believe the San Juan Bautista Committee, formerly known as that. Now I think it's San Juan Bautista Business Committee, Inc. I'm not even sure. Group number 1, I call them. I think that's what they do. They're doing their work around tourism, whether or not you all know that. That's basically what they do. They're in Via Magazine. They're on magazines that people fly across country on. They had commercial spots. Okay, so that's being taken care of, and we need to acknowledge that. And number 10, you said we would like to work with the San Juan Committee, which I think now is the San Juan Business Committee. Maybe names get me confused. I call them Group 1. to identify marketing benchmarks in the effectiveness of our current marketing strategy. It would be great to have I believe a facilitated retreat with San Juan Committee and the San Juan Business Association. And I believe San Juan Committee is the San Juan Business Association. That is their name. To create a cohesive and mutually supportive unified strategy. Well, that's really great, but I don't see that happening now. And I think that that would be a good way to hone in on what's being duplicated, what's being repeated, what's already done. And I really like to see that, because I just feel like there's a lot of good ideas, but I see that there's, and I know that it's a new inception, and also the part about going after grants. And I hope that the mistake is not repeated to go after funding without talking to us here at City Council. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Sabathia.
I apologize for missing the presentation. I had an obligation that I needed to take care of. In coming in and reading the packet beforehand and hearing some of the council members' remarks as I was walking back in, I absolutely agree with you about, bringing some jobs in here. I as an engineer in tech, I work with a lot of tradespeople and work with a lot of shops. Those things have gone by the wayside, and the services that we'll all need, plumbers, mechanics, any type of technician, that's good work. And I would love to see San Juan be part of that revitalization of trades with whatever kind of business park or whatever the idea is that we could come up with. That would be absolutely amazing. And there are as close as Morgan Hill shops who are looking to work with local high schools to have spaces and have things where they're teaching the trades as part of high school curriculum. I know of at least one shop that is doing that in Morgan Hill, and they have been in talks with San Benito High School to help with that too. So they're already reaching as far down as us. It'd be awesome to latch onto some of that. With respect to downtown, and I know there's a lot of hurt feelings both ways. And I'll say it again, there are a lot of particularly strong women trying to drive improvements and volunteerism downtown. And I would love to see, I don't care what's repeated, I don't care what's doubled. It'd be great to see everybody keep doing that. It's going to take a lot of work to get, more foot traffic, more anything, more everything downtown. And any kind of encouragement we can do to get any of that done is a plus to me, even if it's duplicated work, even if it gets just 10 more people down or whatever, any kind of improvement, 1% or whatever, getting that done. Other than that, like I said, sorry I missed the presentation, but I did read through most of it ahead of time.
Thank you very much. It is an amazing group. It started out and there was actually one gentleman on it, right? One? Yeah, in the very beginning. And the group has evolved, and it is full of very, very energetic volunteers who have amazing ideas for the city. My one request is that or statement, I guess, is that this is an advisory committee, and going off and getting grants without knowing the bandwidth of the city is a little tough. So a little more transparency, a little more communication. I hate that word, transparency, but a little more communication. I think our meetings or recommendations should come before the council more frequently, quarterly, than a year and a half later. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you. You had one more comment?
Yes, I would like to address both Sabathia and Friels here.
Councilmember Sabathia and Councilmember Friels.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
I would like to address them as to some of their concerns about education and jobs, because in the plans that I know that the state has, And I being a retired educator, keep my finger on what's going on in the education world, that the state really wants to put into a lot of these programs that they're bringing for the tech stuff, but also I'm going to get back to the other stuff too. The tech stuff, they want to make pathways of education that where kids start in elementary school. They're starting them in elementary school and pathways to internships and then into college and beyond, and possibly jobs in the tech world. As far as the trades go, I do know that education is taking a turn that direction more. I have been in studying what especially some of the junior colleges are doing, that they are looking more at the trades because that is something that they need. And I know that that is part of the foundation. So those things are already kind of out there and being processed right now. So I want you guys to know that. And you can look at the example of Strada Verde. Right now, they're already teaching robotics over at Hollister High School. Okay, and Gavilan College is going to come in with a couple of classes at Anzar High School this year. So education knows that these kids, we don't know what kind of future there's going to be for them. They're going to have to invent their own jobs, a lot of them. But you know, the trades, those are kind of going to be coming along right with it. So I just want you to know that that stuff is already kind of in the works.
Thank you. The EDCAC is working closely with, and forgive me, I don't know all of the acronyms, the EDA, the EDC, both county and Hollister's economic development groups. One of the, I just lost my train of thought. Hollister Downtown Association is part of California Main Street, and had an amazing presentation at Hollister City Council's meeting 2 weeks ago. So it is local. Gilroy was part of it. They have since pulled out. But again, a big shout out to everybody who is and has been involved in this group, and all of the free support that's happening to help support the group.
Just one more thing, if it's okay.
Sure.
I know. But with respect to staff resources, you know, the fragmentation that we have here, and it's always interesting. We're sort of on a growth trajectory with respect to this particular economic development program. And, you know, the objective here is to create a local economic development strategy. And Don and I have talked about this and the importance of having a local strategy that really works for the community. And that really is the intent of this group. And, you know, the subcommittees are supposed to be, interdependent and work together to create this platform for the strategy. And you look at the staff report, there are 4 key recommendations on the second page of the staff report. Don't never mind the extended staff recommendations at the end. For example, there's a reference to a target industry study, which, you know, would be very helpful to understand what sorts of industries San Juan Bautista would best host. You know, so that's the sort of thing that we don't need to include that in this report, but eventually the strategy will, you know, bring those things out in the future. And with respect to staff resources, I think you'll know when this committee begins to feel underserved. And, you know, at that point, you'll understand that because the committee will, based on staff recommendations, will be have more frequent interactions with council as we go forward into the next year. So that's just all I wanted to say, is that you'll know when it's time to think about staff resources if additional resources are ever needed. So.
Thank you very much. And one final comment from the outreach committee, Fran Fitzharris.
Yes, thank you so much, Teresa, for that great report. I just wanted to add, I've been part of this group since it started. And I have to say, I've always been too polite to a fault. So I do want to just share that we have had a lot of people leave this group, 6 people to date, and some really great people that really could have brought some insight to this group. And so we need to also be aware of that we have lost some people. I had just heard that recently that we lost our chair, Stephanie, and that's made me sad. So it's one of those things where I appreciate what we've done so far as a group. But I also think that it's something that we should think about and should consider is that maybe it's time to have this done by another group. When we talk about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, we're always looking at getting, 2 bids or 2 quotes or 2 ideas or whatever. And I would like us to consider another group to look at what we're doing and about this report also, so we can get a full understanding of what it is that we need to do, because this is a big deal. And so I'm just saying, as being a member of this group from the beginning and seeing some of the members drop off and leave, it's brought some concerns to me. Thank God for Darlene Boyd, because she's pretty much done all the work for a lot of the groups. Outside of the rec group, I really commend them. They have been consistent and have really been charging forward on things. But, we have, let's just be honest. And again, I just want to share the truth is that we have been a little dysfunctional, and, you can wrap everything as nicely as you can, but it wasn't perfect. And I think it'd be great to have another group come in and look at our report and add their feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is no action on this one either. Thank you for the presentation all. Discuss the status of the Urban Growth Boundary Sphere of Influence Ad Hoc Committee and potential Brown Act violations. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The city put together a Urban Growth Boundary Subcommittee, ad hoc subcommittee back in April 2020. And I was led to believe, and others were as well, that committee would not meet in public, it would not be subject to the Brown Act. And we've since had a reinterpretation of that. And as soon as we heard at the beginning of this year, when we finally met in May and then in June, we did bring the committee back together under the Brown Act. And at the last meeting, Council Member Morris Lopez was surprised and expressed concern about that. And so we put this matter on the agenda tonight for discussion at the request of Councilmember Morris Lopez and Councilmember Sabathia, and wanted to talk about how this committee should proceed.
Thank you. Attorney Rathy, do you have anything to add to that?
Only that I probably not advise putting on there as a potential Brown Act.
I don't think your people are telling me they can't hear your mic's not working.
Okay, I can try again. Is that better? Okay, I'll talk closer. Those committees are Brown Act committees if they are formed by formal action of the legislative body, in this case, the city council, and they consist of a membership that is other than just less than a quorum of the members of the legislative body. In other words, an example of an ad hoc, well, this is an example of an ad hoc committee that is formed by an action of the city council that consists of just two members of the city council and fulfills a defined purpose, is the committee in the municipal code that is selected to review the credentials of planning commission candidates. That there's only two members of the city council. There are no other members of that committee. That committee is not subject to the Brown Act. Any other composition of the committee, it's really two things that control whether the Brown Act applies. What's the role of the city council, the legislative body, or another legislative body in the formation of that committee? And also, what's the composition of the committee? So in my opinion, the Uniform Growth Boundary Sphere of Influence Committee would be a Brown Act committee.
Thank you very much. Questions from Zoom?
Seeing no hands raised, Mayor,
Thank you, Chambers.
no speaker cards received.
Thank you, Councilmember Friels.
No questions.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
So, I guess it's a small mea culpa. Number one, I was shocked to know that people thought it wasn't a Brown Act committee. And that somehow it passed by this body with me sitting on it, that people thought it wasn't a Brown Act committee. I have the Brown Act in front of me, not an interpretation by the League of Cities, but the official Brown Act. And it says it's covered. And, you know, you can read it yourself. It's not really a close argument or debate.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes, I have quite a bit to say on this since I was the driving committee person that got this on the agenda. Because I feel like the principal thing is, we were all led to believe by former legal advice, city attorney, previous capacity, gave us counsel that we were calling ourselves an ad hoc committee, and we did not fall into the jurisdiction or the guidelines of the Brown Act. And so we went along our merry way for a couple of years thinking we were an ad hoc committee. The composition of the committee was 2 planning commissioners, 2 city council members, and a community member at large. And at one time I was that community member. And so that meant 5. So we went along our way, and then we had elections come up, and we had people become elected and fall off, and people come off the planning commission. So we had to recompose the membership, still with the same formula: 2 city council members, 2 planning commissioners, and 1 city member at large. And then we had a new member, the community member, I believe former Mayor Chris Moritana, that said, wait a minute, you guys, we're clearly not operating as we should. We're not an ad hoc committee because of the way we are comprised. But then again, he was on that former city council with Pro Tem Freeman. So I'm kind of confused as to why now he was more concerned, or maybe he just was able to do his research, and maybe back then we just put a lot of stock in our city attorney back then and taking her word for it. So my whole reason for bringing it up is that I felt blindsided. I'm one of the city council members when we had been operating as such a ad hoc committee previously to do the work. And then all of a sudden, one meeting, we're there, the first meeting after reconvening after probably almost a year, maybe 8 months, 9 months to be exact. And all of a sudden I'm sitting at the table in this very room and there is recorder in front of me. We're now told that we're going to have minutes. There's public membership behind me, sitting behind me who have, and it's open, they're agendized meetings. They're for the public now. So they pretty much operate like any standing committee or elected or appointed board. So that was new to me. And for me, that I think on principle and integrity, that wasn't what I thought the intent was originally with the city council way back, 2.5 years ago to do the work of the SOI and the UGB. And I understand what the definition is, that's not the argument. The argument for me is that how are we going to move forward as a city? Because I feel there's a big conflict in what the initial project was to be, or the ad hoc and the work of it. And now sitting there as a city council member with the public, and I have to say most of the public that was there were stakeholders. And these are people that own property, that are potential developers. And we're asked to be doing and looking at maps and defining SOI and UGB. And I feel that that takes a lot of the organic process of coming up with these boundaries when you've got people behind you. For lack of a better example, you've got the foxes in the hen house. Okay. And so that puts a different perspective, a different way that we come up with this. And as I told the city manager, Mr. Reynolds, respectfully, I said, we have given the stakeholders and the public 2 opportunities in the past to come up with their concerns or their ideas of what they believe where development should go or stop or end or start. And that was in the form of a public charrette last May. And then we had that infamous meeting in June last year at the VFW, where they, once again, the public at large were there. And we, first one, we put colored dots on maps. Second one, we had a roundtable discussion. And it was a working meeting with city council and planning commission and any community members that were interested. So we had 2 big opportunities. And the way I interpret how an ad hoc committee works is that you have one assigned task or a goal. And this task was to come up with an SOI and an urban growth boundary. So SOI, sphere of influence, UGB, urban growth boundary. And then we pass it up to the next committee or elected board. And for me, that would be our planning commissioner. And then from there, they do a recommendation to city council. And it doesn't even stop there. It goes to LAFCO, I believe. People can correct me if I'm wrong. So it's a process. And so I'm looking at the process, and the process was not fully understood in the inception of it. And for me, that's the important part. And so I wanted to bring it back to the table, and I want to know how we're going to move forward. I do not appreciate it being a standing committee because we gave it an ad hoc title because we thought that we could freely sit around as concerned citizens and elected officials, appointed officials, and work this out for the betterment of future growth and development for our town. And when you throw the mix of future developers around us and looking at us and listening to us, it puts a whole different, I think, energy, and it's just harder to work. Okay. And that's not the intention of a ad hoc. You talked to county supervisor, and I weighed in with a couple of current elected officials, and that is not their interpretation. They said ad hoc committees are formed specifically for one goal. There's no public involved. They come back with their ideas or their recommendations to the body at large, which in that case would be the Board of Supervisors. Public has a chance to weigh in on public comment. So I feel that we need to get this right. We need to get it clear. And that's why I brought it back.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Spathia.
My comments will take the form of more questions like before. Is there a timeline or a due date for the assignment of bringing this map back? My general feeling, having been on the committee as well, it's taken way too long.
I'm not aware of one. That would probably be in the formation of the committee. I'm not aware that there's a deadline to bring back a recommendation, but I think just from my understanding, the intent is once the recommendation, as Councilmember Morris Lopez has said, is taken to the planning commission or the next body up the way, that at that point, the UGB SOI committee would have done its work and would have completed its task. And that would be the end of the committee. So it would be when the recommendation of the committee was, I'll say, kicked up the line to the next bodies.
Okay, well, my recommendation and request would be that at the next meeting, whenever that happens, that a timeline is proposed and discussed so that we know when to expect this to end. This can't go on indefinitely.
Sure, that would be appropriate.
Okay, since I was at the meeting, there is discussion of a timeline. We have at least 2 more meetings that have been put in stone. So the discussion around the table was this should be ending shortly. As you saw, the problem we were having is it wasn't a unified group for the entire time. We had people just like Jackie said, we had people coming in and out. And then we had lengths of time and COVID restrictions, and you're right, it has taken a long time. But we do have another meeting scheduled. Actually, I believe we have another meeting scheduled and then one after that. So we put those out there. My concern now is that, well, my concern from the beginning is that originally we were given incorrect information from our past legal. Okay, that's acknowledged. Attorney Rathie is telling us, he's telling us his opinion, and in his opinion, which is the same opinion as our county sheriff had with the public safety committee, is that this is a Brown Act. This is a Brown Act body, 2 council members, 2 planning commissioners, and a subject at large. Now knowing that, I can't foresee going forward any other way than treating it as a Brown Act body. I believe there was a lawsuit or a potential lawsuit in California on something similar. And I don't remember the city. It was a fairly good sized city. Do you remember
Well, yeah, I shared with you when we met this week, and I have it here. Sebastopol,
There's a case, and I don't remember the title, but where a committee was formed consisting of 2 members of the city council and 2 members of the planning commission. And the city was under the impression that because it was less than the quorum of either body, that it would not be subject to the Brown Act. And the courts said, no, it's not. It would only not be subject to the Brown Act if it only consisted of 2 members of the city council in that case.
and that's what I understood by reading that section in the Brown Act. And after going forward, unfortunately, we were given incorrect information at the beginning. But we are getting close. We're in the pickle barrel. So we're close. At least. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. My first question was about a timeline, so thank you for answering that. It alleviates a lot of the concern knowing that things are focused in that way.
June 27th is the next meeting.
Okay. Secondly, using this time to encourage, I completely agree with you. People who are landowners, Councilmember Morris Lopez, people who are landowners being there, swaying the conversation one way or another. And just like I would encourage our town members, the only way that they can have that input is to be there and to show up, so they can pull that rope the other way and voice their concerns. Same thing with people being here for the council meetings, and whether that's on Zoom, phone, watching on Facebook, or in person. I love that there's so many different ways for people to actually participate, but being here, showing up and voicing opinions so that those voices can be heard. I think that's all.
I have one more comment, and this is for Mr. Rathie. So I understand what everyone's saying. So ad hoc committee has to be like membership from either city council or planning commission in order not to be a Brown Act violation. And that is a task goal oriented committee driven by that one function to accomplish the SOI or the UGB. Once that's completed, that committee goes away permanently. Okay, now I want to pose this to you. Okay, we have an ad hoc committee still. We have two planning commissioners, two city council members, and a community member at large. And that is subject to the Brown Act violation. You're calling it a standing committee. Standing committee is something that is perpetuity.
I'm not calling it a standing committee.
Okay, but the definition of that, okay, is a standing committee now because you're lining it up against the Brown Act.
It's not a standing committee. Difference between a standing committee and, as you refer to them, ad hoc committees, task forces, or something else. Standing committee has a continuing subject matter jurisdiction.
Right,
The planning commission is in a sense a standing committee,
yes, I understand.
and
that,
it
but
is subject
you
to
see
Brown.
what you're doing here, and I'm
Well, I'm trying to be very
I'm
clear.
not an attorney, but this is what I'm saying. Okay, you cannot have it both ways. We're calling this an ad hoc committee, but we have standing committee rules and function to the Brown Act. Okay, we all know that this is a task goal oriented committee, and then it goes away. But you are doing something in terms of operating like a standing committee, and that standing committee is something that doesn't go away, just like the
It doesn't matter. Both are subject to the Brown Act. Both standing committees and temporary ad hoc task forces that go away are subject to the Brown Act, with the sole exception is of whether the ad hoc temporary task force consists solely of less than a quorum of the legislative body.
I respectfully disagree, and I'd like to see.
That's fine. You may respectfully disagree, but that's what the Brown Act says.
No, I understand the Brown Act, but I like to see it in writing because I still feel that you're muddying the water here. Because we are gonna work on a goal, and we are a standing committee when you have the Brown Act, and it's not gonna go away. I mean.
But you're also a public body, and that's the most important thing. The Brown Act is a sunshine law. The Brown Act doesn't allow you to conduct most proceedings outside of the public eye, except in the case of closed sessions, and a very limited, I'll admit, exception for certain, I'll say ad hoc, although I don't like that term because it's not used in the Brown Act. And it appears to have been used in a certain way that if we call it an ad hoc committee, it's not subject to the Brown Act. And that has led you down a perilous path.
And that is why I'm questioning what was the intent of the city council back then. Yes, we can't look backwards, but what was the full intent of it? Was it to be a meeting that was going to be held with stakeholders and the public at that juncture? Or are we going to come up with our recommendations and have public commentary?
The intent of the council does not control. It's the actions of the council that control. It's how what the council did, not what the council intended.
And then are we going to pull up all our old minutes? Because if you're saying that we are held to the Brown Act violations, we have two years of back minutes. What are we going to do?
I'm
with
not
that?
recommending that you do that. No. No, what took place on what meetings that were held in violation of the Brown Act, you never received a cease and desist order. You never received a demand to cure letter. So there's no action that needs to be taken here as far as those past meetings. The only thing that if you wanted to take any sort of, and this is not on for action tonight, but any sort of action, if you did receive a cease and desist letter under the Brown Act, my advice would be that you follow the Brown Act and then issue what's called an unconditional commitment not to violate the Brown Act. and that would in essence cure the problem.
So then there's
So-
two definitions of an ad hoc committee, one that is not beholden. to-
There's no definition of of an ad hoc committee, of the Brown Act. It doesn't exist.
That what we're talking.
It doesn't exist in the Brown Act. It may exist on the internet, but not in the Brown. Act.
But it's referencing, legalese. So I'm just, like I said,
Well, the term ad hoc certainly exists for this is what it means. That a committee formed for a specific purpose. Yes, but the Brown Act doesn't refer to ad hoc committees.
so this is I'm gonna throw this out there, and I know this is a discussion item, so I'm just gonna discuss it. Nobody has to vote on it, but I'm thinking in terms of keeping it like we intended, what I'm assuming that you wanted an ad hoc committee, that this committee could just go into a room and look at maps and come up with recommendations. And like I said, we had certain points along the way where the public was invited, and they will be invited again. I don't want them to not be invited, but if you truly want an ad hoc committee, then we have to stick with either two from the planning commission, two from the city council, and no public person. And I'm willing to look at that as an option. And I'd step down if someone said, hey, let it be two planning commissioners, or if it really is the city council, because we requested this work, then maybe it needs to live with city council members.
Yeah, 2 members of the city council solely on that committee would take it outside the Brown Act.
Food for thought.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Before we go on,
Mhm.
can we take a break?
Yes, please. 5-minute break. Thank you all very much. Please sit by or stand. Teresa. There we go. Hi, welcome back. Thank you very much. Action items. Getting close, folks. Operational and capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is what city managers are supposed to do. They're supposed to bring a budget. This is, I've been practicing, but this is the maybe the final show. Budget cadence refers to the rhythm of budgeting in our city. July 1 begins the new fiscal year and the closing of the prior year. In December through audit, in December, we approve the audit. Usually it's in December. This year was January. Then we have the mid-year budgets where we make adjustments where necessary. Thank you. And I can't read the slide. In February, March, we have our strategic plan update. And this year we started a new 5-year strategic plan. And we use the survey data and interviews and public workshops to inform our budget. So here we are in the end of the spring, coming forward with our budget. Just a quick overview of the survey data from our strategic planning. Both quantitative and qualitative questions. We had 158 responses, which is really great. And water quality, and it was number 1 and number 2, which we knew and in which we know our budget is funding. Economic development had a high priority at 39 total votes. Water costs, of course, they go up July 1st for the next several years. So that's on everybody's mind. Business friendliness and downtown improvements were also related to economic development. Crime and safety got 22 votes, schools 29, so and so forth. So we use these top priorities, and we also use the top biggest concerns. Staff and leadership capability, water quality again is the biggest concern, and then growing too fast, water cost, infrastructure, all of these things went to inform our budget. And our budget is provided to the public and the council on a software that makes it really easy to read. And so if you follow the blue link on this page, you'll go to ClearGov. And this is the 3rd year we've used ClearGov, the 4th year since I've been here. And it includes in the table of contents a transmittal letter, an organization chart, a strategic plan, priorities and issues, summary of priorities and issues, a summary of personnel changes, and then fund summaries for all the various funds. And this is only an excerpt of the 119-page budget. But I just wanted to give a little push for people to use the ClearGov. It makes the budget for the city a lot easier to understand. And a lot of these narratives are part of the staff report. Oop. So we introduced the budget May 16th. We had our first workshop. Did I skip? No. We had our first workshop May 25th, where we introduced some of the reorganization recommendations from our Citygate strategic planning work. That includes public safety reorganization and general administration. We introduced funding for historic preservation, recreation, and economic development. We introduced the capital improvement budget and added a climate action plan funding for a consultant. And then at the June 6th workshop, and then we also had a June 6th workshop. Now this was the status of our budget when we first started working. The only thing of note here is that we had a surplus going in of $99,000 to play with as we thought of new programs and opportunities for us. Noting that the revenues are down and projected to be flat. In the general fund, I'm focusing on the top line. It was at 2.2 last year, and it's down 15%. And so the expenditures also reflect an 11% decrease, ending up with a $100,000 balance. We talked about community development and how we subsidize community development. The revenues from community development are based on growth, based on planning, based on permits and entitlements. And we just haven't had that action in the past year in particular. So we did have a pretty busy community development fund, say in 2018, 2019, 2020, but it's starting to taper off. And we're focusing on bigger picture things now, the urban growth boundary, the economic development. So that's being subsidized by the general fund. And then the rest of these funds have zero balance because that's the way they're designed. Our special districts are supposed to zero out every year. Gas tax is dedicated to street improvements, and that has to be shown by the state requirement. So that's a summary of where we started. And then when we were done with our last workshop, we had added some things to the general fund programs. That's the number that changed. It went from 100,000 down to 35,000. So we did add about $65,000 in general fund operational expenses. We also okay, so this is a summary that I made this table in the personnel status, and it shows where we've been since May 16th, where staff had requested 3 new positions, full-time, and 2 new part-time positions. And through the workshops and public input that we received, we learned that 2 of the new positions were full-time positions were supported, and that's a result of the police reorganization. And 1 of the 2 administrative part-time positions was approved. So we'd be going from 10 full-time positions to 12 full-time positions, from 7 existing positions part-time to 8 part-time positions. And just a quick review of what those are. The public safety reorganization is balancing the budget by eliminating the reliance on private security. A full-time public safety coordinator is one of those positions. They would manage safety contracts, data, and technology. If we move forward with a security camera system, for example, this is an example of the technology that they would help us manage. And the data would be crime statistics and other data that is specific to public safety. And then the council, instead of opting for a community services officer and code enforcement officer part-time, asked that we consolidate those into 1 position. So we're advocating supporting a community services officer position to help manage our code enforcement and our quality of life issues, to include parking, truck traffic, animal regulation, administrative citations for fireworks and things like that. And we estimated that savings to be $21,000 in the end. And we continue our fire contract for another year before it gets renegotiated. The Hollister Fire is having a fire advisory committee coming up. They're working on their feasibility study to become a fire district, as noted by the chief earlier today. And we still have 2 budgeted dedicated deputies in the budget. So the sheriff's contract has gone from about 160 to 320. So that's still in there. And this kind of just shows a kind of a spaghetti soup of the different public safety work that we do, and how the public safety coordinator would oversee these contracts and become our single point of contact. That's really important in public safety, and it also helps us with our 24/7 enforcement coverage, because the public safety coordinator can be working on weekends and on special duty and assignments. It improves communication between us and the sheriff and the fire department in particular, and the county office of emergency services. And basically they'll be the ones helping us to use and management data and technology. So we are negotiating a new sheriff contract, and that's kind of like revising the taxes. That generally will wind up in a cost increase. They don't seem as ambitious about that. I haven't met with them in 6 weeks, and I was hoping by now, we started meeting in December, that we would have that number for you. But just a little heads up, that's a little caution sign there on the bottom. The sheriff's contract is being renewed. So the operating and capital improvement budgets also improve City Hall customer service and communication improvements, as shown in the surveys, and to reduce the workload of the deputy city clerk that also became the administrative services manager prior to Elizabeth's hire. So it frees up time for better and more reliable communication, and that's the city clerk is geared to do that. It also will allow us to keep our City Hall doors open Monday through Friday till 5 p.m. and provide staff support for human resources, our benefits management, and risk management. So the part-time administrative assistant was supported to help us keep our doors open and serve the customers better, the citizens better. We're also adding agenda management software and document management software, and those are 2 important tools for the city clerk to use. Okay. Here we go. We started with 3 original initiatives that we have funded in prior year budgets. The public safety initiative has $200,000. The public safety committee did recommend that we secure that we look into security cameras, and I met with a local company out of Gilroy today, and I went out back to the flock camera folks to try and get feedback from flock, so that I had 3 vendors that I could bring forward to the council for comparison and use of those funds. So they still are there, and I'm planning to come forward with the use of those funds probably in August at the rate I'm heading, but soon. The Third Street Master Plan had budgeted $215,000, and we applied for a grant for a multimodal transportation center somewhere around the Alameda and the soccer field in 4th Street. And that's a $330,000 grant. So we hope to see that grow up to $515,000. And then the Urban Growth Sphere of Influence Committee had a $200,000 budget. We hired EMC. The community meetings that were referenced by Councilmember Morris Lopez started to present a community plan for the unincorporated area south of the Alameda. So that's where that money is being spent right now, and that plan is on hold until it can be the Sphere of Influence Committee can pick it up and blend it into their recommendation for their Sphere of Influence, and the parcels that they recommend would be pre-zoned in the concepts of that plan. So that's where that money is being spent. It was spent through EMC last year, and so that's the status of the original 3 initiatives. This year, as mentioned, we have some new ideas. We've really bolstered the historical preservation in terms of training, updating codes and policies. We brought on an expert, and she's made an assessment of our programs. And so we put just a little bit of money in there to help implement those. And we also have a grant identified, a $40,000 grant. Recreation, we are recruiting for a recreation technician right now, and we recommended a little bit of funding to support the new part-time recreation technician. Economic development, we do have a detail for you of the training and the California Main Street program and other things that we would like to do to expand our economic development. That was talked a lot about tonight. And then our climate action plan, we put money aside for a consultant there as requested. So these are the budgets, the same detailed budgets that the council saw the last 2 meetings. A total of the first one is the recreation. You can't see because this is in the way, but that's really his recreation programs. We had received an estimate of a maximum cost estimate, I will say, from Kim Calamay's group. She and I worked hard on putting a budget together, and she thought this would be a 12-month program. And as I mentioned, as we went through this at our last workshop, she was talking about a portable stage that would cost about $6,000. She was talking about processing more than 100 volunteers for her programs that she thought we needed. And yeah, we sure do need all those programs, but I think our budget is more safely put on the right-hand column here. Our staff positions budgeted at $26,000. If necessary, we'll come back to the council, increase the salary, but we want to start at that level. And then put about $15,400 aside for a total budget of almost $30,000 for building recreation programs, probably starting in August, September, when that position is filled. And then we talked a lot about these acronyms, CalEd membership for EDCAC members, for city staff, continuing to invest in these programs and bring these toolkits for self-trainings back to the community, and continue the education and growth of economic development in our community. I think it's really on a lot of momentum there. And I provided these links so that you could go and see what the California Main Street membership looks like. And then this community engagement and assessment tool, I think, will be a great tool to help us kick off our 3rd Street transformation. So we've got some specific ideas in here budgeted. We did not budget the $18,000. We did not carry that forward for a downtown organizational needs study. We'll pick that up later. I think when things are more relaxed downtown, there's less friction. So that's the way these have been amended and presented. This is the 2nd or 3rd time that we've seen them. And then this same chart I've been carrying forward for the city council. We have more than 10 months of general fund reserve, and we have a general fund reserve policy that talks about having 2.5 months of general fund reserve available. So staff is suggesting, original thought was we go not to exceed $500,000 in the use of general fund money to sponsor our economic development program at $31,000 and historic preservation at $12,500. recreation program at 15.4. And then I'll get into some detail a little bit on some familiar capital improvements. That's the bulk of the use of the $500,000. 50,000 for the climate action plan. We snuck in 5,000 for rain gutters and community development fee study of $35,000. That was just from the last workshop. So those two bottom items are coming new on the scene. The net result in operations is we actually save about $6,300 by reorganizing our public safety. We thought originally we'd be using about $43,000 of the general fund operations money, but that's not necessary. And then we wound up at 449, 450, just about in the use of the general fund reserve on these programs that we've been talking about for the past month. So I'm going kind of fast because we've seen this stuff before. So does anyone want me to stop before I go into capital? Do you want to talk about this chart or any of the other details? No?
I was looking at the capital improvement and you said you snuck in some rain gutters. Do we have anything in there for the roof on the museum?
Yes.
Where would that fall under?
Yes, we do. That's part of the 300. That's part of the detail of the 300.
Okay. Okay.
4 projects there. The Abbey Field ball lights, 90,000 plus for the Luck Park Master Plan historic improvements, and then a little extra to add to the community hall acoustics. So that's what that 300 is.
And the roof. And then that's something, the gutters on the library. Every time I walk by the library, I'm like, why don't they have gutters?
And instead we have a door that's weathered.
A door that's rotted. So yeah, that's awesome.
So, okay, good, okay. You guys okay with it? Okay.
Excuse me for one.
Sure.
I thought I remember talking that the roof on the library is no longer, that's not the broken part, it's now the floor or something like a crack in the floor.
Right.
The roof is actually okay?
The roof is only 5 years old, but there is a crack in the floor. And so I shared with the Historical Society just before their meeting last week, Saturday morning, that we would we would immediately repair the grade and put in the ADA improvements for them and sidewalks. And then at the same time, hire a structural engineer to review the whole building and give us an assessment. And from that, we should have a little bit of money to patch some holes and fix some cracks in them. Yeah, that's actually my next slide. So, so the CIP consists of 33 projects at $21 million. I don't know that we have the human resources to put out that much work, but we're going to do our best. Adding 740,000 related to 7 different projects, and subtracting 15,000 from 2 closed projects. So that's the library computers and the 10,000 for homeless. So we took out 15, adding in 740. So the general fund reserve would be used for the Abbey Park ball field lights, 150 with new poles, adding 75,000 to the Luck Park Historic Master Plan, and adding 75,000 to the community hall acoustical renovations. And those bids close on Friday. So we should have some action on the community hall for you at the July meeting. I know, I'm sorry, I just was going too fast. Adding general fund reserve items include the library rain gutters, community development fee study, and then subtracting 10 for homeless and 5 for library computers. The balance of the funds, and there's a 4 in there, $250,000 grant from 3CE for electrifying the fleet, and they just contracted with their consultant to help run that program, and we're in line for that.
That's not a study, that's an actual.
That's an actual providing charging stations at our public works yard and helping us buy a fleet like the small wagons for Menno and our building and grounds folks. So, and then this is half, it's a 2-year program. So we could be eligible for more than that. And then 150 for the upgrade of the Diaz lift station, which we talked before, and that comes from the sewer enterprise fund. So it's an ambitious capital improvement budget. And only added a few projects this year because we need to finish up what we're doing. You know, our biggest capital improvement is the sanitary sewer force main. So, but that's been carried over from 2 or 3 years back, so that's moving forward. Another example is the contribution for the track and field at the school, that remains in place. And I'll show you a glimpse of all 33 projects here in a minute. This is the-
If we can stop just a second, is the DS lift station, is that gonna go out to bid, or is that gonna be done by our own public works department, do you know?
No, we'll probably have to go out to bid for that because all the control panels, everything need to
Okay,
be
so
changed.
that requires a qualified electrician and all that good
Yes,
stuff.
yeah. We bought the pumps, but we don't have the electrical system to run them.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, yeah, so this is a summary that I think we're pretty familiar with. It's holding the 740. Okay. And then this is a list of all of them. And on the left column, you'll see extra means we've added money to the project. New is a brand new project. And so the green ones are the things that we've added to the existing list. So we're carrying forward a lot of things, including transfer switches, work that can be done on the Rancho Vista lift station, although 125 is not enough. So we're going to try and add to that over time. We have the force main to Hollister in here for what's left of it is almost $18 million. We've spent close to $1 million on the Stantec design work. Telemetry, lift station, emergency generators. We have 170 identified for the city hall and fire station, and where we can put them out at our lift station, so we don't have to run around with our trailer when the power goes off. We have a brand new emergency generator that's on a trailer, so that's why the transfer switches at the wells are helpful. Wastewater treatment plant mid-year was something we did in January. We went out and actually that was in 2022, and I think we had spent most of that money, so I need to double check that number. But the rest of it is pretty straightforward. We certainly need a dog kennel still in the corporate yard, but now I understand that they're like $60,000 because they need to have all kinds of SPCA requirements that they have to meet. And that's it. You'll see the new ones and the old ones there. And we took out the 10,000, the very bottom one is the homeless programs. Big project next year is a housing element, and we have a community meeting, planning commission meeting on the housing element on the 29th of June. That gives us 6 months to go from that meeting to an adopted housing element in December. And that's it. I just have a few thoughts, working on the budget and working with other cities and talking to them. We're using $500,000 almost from the general fund reserve for one-time costs, so we can make some advances and catalyze some programs like recreation and economic development. These are balance equal to about 10 months of revenue, and the city reserve policy is 2.5 months. Sales tax is projected to not increase next year, and the general fund revenues are projected to be down 15%. So we reduced our general fund expenses, and the city's growth is slowing, which makes sense. So in the future, I would recommend suspending the use of general fund reserves unless the revenues rebound and start to increase, because we're still looking at a 4 to 5% year inflation, and if revenues don't increase, we're not going to be able to keep up with inflation. So we don't want to be in a deficit mode, and we want to be more cautious about our reserves. The sewer force main may need some general fund support. We had 2 big meetings on that today, and we're looking at other sources of funding. The USDA would consider increasing their grant amount to the city by $250,000. We're looking at Measure G. I've written to the COG to see how we could use Measure G for the asphalt and street improvements related to the general fund and related to the force main project. But out of 18 million, we're within $500,000. So I think that project is coming forward, and it will be the contract will be recommended for award. And like I said earlier, we have a total summary for you in the 7/18 meeting. So that's it.
The part about the COG and the asphalt, all those roads are frankly in the county. So we will basically be improving or doing the county road program for them. Will we get some compensation back from them, I hope.
Well, that's kind of the point. The county is putting in $4 million. They are putting in $4 million, and that takes care of almost all the asphalt.
Okay.
So I don't know how much are in there, be there, maybe a couple $100,000.
If it's going down, whatever, Olympia or Duncan or whatever it is, that's all county, you know, and those roads are. Yeah, thank you.
Too bad. Yeah, Freitas is really bad. Yeah, understood.
So when, when the contract is,
Microphone.
when the contract is awarded, when are they breaking ground?
It was estimated 6 weeks to get the contract signed and to get the pipe on order. There's something called RFIs, and they go through this whole long list of requests for information because they need to know the specifics. You know, we gave them a specification for pipe. We need to see the pipe and touch it and feel it. And so they go through all this confirmation process. So these big public works projects take about 6 weeks to stage and start.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councilor Friels?
Nope.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman? Nothing. Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez?
No, thank you, city manager. For the third time. It's good.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia?
My only question, don't dart at me. My only question is, when will those computers be installed at the library?
Liz might be able to help us. We reached out to RX Tech on Monday, and I banged my shin on them yesterday, so it's gonna happen sooner. On my office floor. Anyway,
We'll make sure that they pick them up before the end of the week and have them ready to go.
Darn, and he was just here a couple hours ago.
and Liz, when does the recreation position close?
I haven't received anything, and I think it closes either at the end of this week or next week, but I haven't received any applications at all whatsoever.
Is there a link you could send us so that we could try to
Yeah.
publicize it?
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
on the list.
Facebooks, everything. Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Oh.
Link.
Yeah,
link.
I'll send it to everybody today.
Yeah, we'll extend the deadline, but RGS might be able to help us spread it across, Northern California kind of thing.
Speaking of RGS, are we using them more? Can we use them more now for risk management, HR, whatever?
I haven't circled back. We reached the maximum on those contracts, or we will by the end of the year. I've been using them more for helping us with policy issues when HR and updating our policies, and we have a list now of policies that need to be updated. So certainly on the HR, they could also help with ADP and payroll if we wanted. So Liz and I need to sit down and put our heads together on that.
Okay, thank you. RFPs, we have lots that are going out soon. Public safety coordinator, community service officer, cameras.
Worked on the attorney today, and at the encouragement of our attorney. And there's also one that I'm putting together. We have designed a conduit into our force main project, and we don't have any takers. We have people who've offered, garlic.com and Hankins. They want to be in our trench, but the trench is $2.5 million. And so I'm going to put out an RFP, and I found an attorney who's specializing in this type of work, and she gave me some great advice today. So I started working on that RFP as well.
Awesome.
So hopefully that can happen in time to inform the bid award, because otherwise it's a bid alternate. We remove it from the project.
Right. No, I think it's a great idea trying to get some assistance in that. There was a slide on telemetry. Is that for water, talking wells, talking to tank to stop it from overflowing?
Yes, it was for both, actually. It was funded 50% from both enterprise funds.
Okay. Is there a wee bit of cash left over for a First and Second Street traffic study for speeders and traffic calming measures?
We should be able to get that from the city engineers department from their contract.
Okay,
I generally put in like $15,000 extra for things like that
okay.
above the retainer.
Cool, very cool, very cool. And I had asked last meeting about code enforcement and librarian going back to pre-COVID 20 hours a week. Are we making any headway on that?
Does the council want to reduce services? Is that the question?
It-
I've only heard you ask it, Mayor. I haven't heard anyone speak
Right,
on that.
council? I don't know. It's, we're not reducing services. We're going back to services that we had pre-COVID. And it was my understanding that we increased services for the librarian, for a PIO, and for code enforcement, and checking up on our community. And those monies were earmarked specifically for COVID, and it was my understanding that after COVID, those would go back to pre-COVID. Yeah, can't say that word enough. To pre-COVID status. So I don't know, does anybody else have any other feeling, yay or nay?
Our librarian is part-time.
Our city has a system where you can work 30 hours a week and still be part-time and not be eligible for benefits. And she receives health benefits in a different way, and she says she gets better benefits than we could provide her. So we've had this conversation before. And at one time, I asked the council to consider her a full-time position, and that wasn't approved 3 years ago.
Well, we have, how many visitors, there's what, 3 people working? How many paid employees are in the library?
That's 3 part-time positions. At 20 hours a
Yeah.
week, and then.
I think one's leaving, Delia's leaving, I think this week. So to answer the mayor's question, I would not like to see a reduction in library hours. I think it's one of the great things we provide for the entire community, and I think it's working just fine now. Code enforcement, I'm kind of, I don't know, I think we keep talking about all these problems, and then you want to take it back and not deal with it. So I get really confused by that. So, it's just, someone else make that decision.
But back to the library. Sorry. So if Delia's leaving, can we offer Rochelle the full-time position?
We'll still have 2 part-timers and Rochelle.
Well, we have somebody leaving though.
We have 3 part-timers and Rochelle.
We have 4 people working in the library?
Yes.
Yes. 4 people, 4 part-time. So
That's what I just asked.
Yes,
Just asked
that's why I said
how many
yes.
people we had.
I said yes.
320 and 130.
Is
Okay.
there a gentleman that's a volunteer?
No, he's our new employee.
Oh, so can you tell us how many hours each of those employees work?
2020, 2030.
No, let's go.
They work between 12 and 15 hours, no more than 15 hours a week.
That's only
So what does
Yeah.
Rochelle work? What is her current status right now of hours?
30.
Yes.
30, and
30.
then you said, so that's one person, so then the other 3, what are their hours, 12 to 15?
2 of them work 12 to 15 hours a week, and then one of them works 1 day a week on
Yeah.
Saturdays.
So is that an 8-hour shift, or is it? a
No, it's what, 11 to 2?
And the hours of operation for the library are what?
Saturdays, it's limited hours, I think.
Yes.
I know, but what, I need a straight answer. So what days are the library open? Monday through Sunday, Monday through Friday?
Monday through Saturday,
And then what are the hours? Those are the days.
11 to 6 during the week, and I believe Saturday is 11 to 2.
2, I believe. There's a banner on the wall. I just didn't take a picture of it.
And closed on Sundays.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the math.
But I was trying to,
Yeah,
I'm trying to get, because Rochelle, she spoke and she said she's working 2 jobs and she's getting kind of tired. So why can't we offer up a full-time
Working 3.
Jamaican month? Why can't we offer up a full-time is there, I mean, does she not want to work full time or?
I'm happy to bring a study back for you and do the math and do the table.
I thought a study was already on the table from last meeting.
Looking at her classification
Yep.
and doing that, yeah.
Yeah, and I had questions about what do we require in as far as education, and then
Right.
Councilmember Sabathia related his personal situation, but I appreciate that, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a city librarian. We're changing classification. We're looking at how many total hours we need coverage, what we have right now. So there's a lot to consider. I won't use the word, but I will, pre-COVID, post-COVID.
And then code enforcement.
What is code enforcement working now?
30 hours. They're working Wednesday through Sunday.
Okay, and I know that,
All the six.
I know that I did see him do some good stuff on Saturday. Or no, Sunday. Things were a little hectic out here Sunday. People parking in driveways and crosswalks, and we had a couple vendors that were selling out of their vans, and just on a walk, I saw this whole thing happen, and he was busy.
Oh, this
but-
is at the church.
Yeah, well, this was all right here on
Mhm.
Second Street,
Sunday,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Sunday masses.
So I'm okay with 30 hours.
College or no, a qualified person is a qualified person. I still believe that. I think it's
I
relevant.
concur.
I also think, I definitely support, I was under the impression, like I said, that we were looking into converting and improving, having somebody being full-time in the library. I think that would be great for continuity and for services, getting things open, and making sure there's equal and fair pay there. I'm ignorant of how much code enforcement we need, so my less of an opinion there. I would think with the full-time deputy being here, maybe that there would be some sort of overlap. I also think there may not need to be a change now, given that what we might be on the verge of approving with rolling into public safety and a community services officer. Maybe we let things stand for now, and we already have a change on the, potentially on the books coming up.
We have a new plan, yeah.
Can we get a study on that also? Sorry. A study on what pre-COVID hours looked like, what he was doing, what that position was doing, and what it's doing now. While we're doing the librarian.
Can you give me to September 30th?
When do we anticipate having an RFP
Well, it's not an RFP, it's a recruitment.
for public safety and community services?
So the two full-time positions, it's a recruitment, not an RFP.
Okay,
I just, I think it's kind of, I don't want to go to work tomorrow morning and tell them they've just lost 30% of their paycheck. You know, I want to give them the time. I want to give them.
yeah, that's why I'm asking for a study.
So,
Increase it.
I'm gonna agree with, Scott and EJ here. I think we just stick with what we have for now, and then we'll change it when we have a reason to change it, which would be the hire of the new people, and that would be the reason for change. And we just stick with what we got now. I think too many changes all at once, or things get a little screwy.
And like, the deputy they can't enforce civil code, municipal code. Unless it's unless we have some kind of parking thing that they can do or something like that, so and it's still, we're still having issues out there. Yeah, if we have some changes coming, then we're gonna have a transition anyway. It sounds like we're probably in favor of the two new folks coming on board.
Mhm.
So we're definitely going to have changes coming up.
We'll wait.
That would be fine with me.
So having 4 Kismet, 1 code enforcement officer and 1 deputy right now is cool.
Say that again.
4 Kismet officers
I thought we were eliminating the Kismet.
right now, but right now we have 4 Kismet, one code enforcement officer and one deputy sheriff.
But not on duty at all the time.
There's a lot of overlap.
It's so Kismet can't do code enforcement
Correct,
and the deputy sheriff can't do civil code enforcement.
correct.
So.
So if we had
so
the
we
code
wanna
enforcement,
eliminate the person that can do, the only person that can do code enforcement?
no, I think the code enforcement officer should be doing code enforcement.
Well, it's the same.
There is some overlap for.
But if
municipal code.
code enforcement can write parking citations,
That's traffic.
what's the harm in that?
Try and save a couple of dollars.
So as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm
Just
wrong,
ask for a study.
studies cost money. As I understand it, the Kismet contract is a set rate, and if they want to throw 10 people out on the street or 2 people on the street, it's going to cost us basically the same. That's how I understand it. So the Kismet number means nothing to me, you know, other than the more the merrier, or the more the better, because it's a set price.
Yeah, and so I agree that there's some inefficiencies and but to me, approving this is fixing all that. Like, that's how I've been looking at it.
Citygate did study it, right? That's what we asked them to do.
Yeah, we did have a study done.
Okay, so. Question, comment, concern from the public. All right. May I have a motion to approve the budget?
Can I stop sharing so I can?
Yes.
A study. May I have a motion to approve the budget?
So moved.
I'll second it.
A motion to, seriously.
not a question.
A motion made by Council Member Sabathia and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Freeman to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista adopting the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget and capital improvement plan. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Oh, don't pack up yet. Action item 7B. Adopt a list of projects for fiscal year 2023-24 funded by SB1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017. Thank you for the budget, by the way, Don.
It's right here, so I don't need the computer anymore.
Sorry. City manager.
That's okay.
How about you, bad self?
The Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017 requires annually that the city engineer prepare a report that tells the state how we're using their Senate Bill 1 money. As noted in the staff report, we just completed a number of different street repairs, and it takes us 2 or 3 years to put this $51,000 together into a big enough pie that makes it a value. So the last project we did was $1.4 million. And in this resolution, we'll be telling the state that we have our pavement management plan in place, that we have our streets prioritized, and that we have plans to use these funds strictly for road maintenance and rehabilitation as required by the law. So this is something that they require by June 30th of every year, and so you'll see this in every agenda.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom? From Chambers? From Councilmember Friels?
Yeah, just first of all, thank you for a pavement master plan. I mean, poor town has just been hodgepodge for decades. I think a question that I think I've asked you this before, I'm not forgot. Don't we get money from Recology?
We do. We don't necessarily use it for streets. It goes into our general fund, and Wendy's still on the line. She can correct me if I'm wrong. Our waste franchise fees, Wendy?
Yes, we do receive money from Ecology every quarter, actually, and I think it's roughly $3,500 a quarter.
3,500, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen more than that. It's like 25,000 per year, and so that'd be like 8,000 a quarter, close to it.
That's 14 grand. Yeah, okay. I just curious of that because, you know, we used to have one garbage can and now we have three, and now we have three large trucks instead of one. And they're violating our municipal code for weight. So I'm just curious about that. Nope, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
I'm gonna agree with Scott that that's great. We have a pavement management plan and I'm glad we're following it. I think it works well, and send the report off to the state. I'm sure they'll be pleased. Thank you.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
No questions.
Councilmember Sabathia.
Awesome with the planning, no questions.
Thank you. I have no questions either. Thank you very much, Don. May I have a motion to approve a resolution of the city of San Juan Bautista adopting a list of projects for fiscal year 23-24 funded by SB1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilmember Sabathia, seconded by Councilmember Friels. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.